Gay. And now a digitally remastered recap of the summer's music news. Baby Baby Love Ya Girl is now the nation's #1 song, despite no one claiming credit for singing, writing, or producing it. Here now is a short excerpt of the track.
Baby, baby, love you, girl. Baby, baby, love you, girl. Baby, baby.
Members of the music industry call the hit single the most creatively brain-dead wasteland in modern recording history. And they say they would gladly lose millions in royalties rather than face the shame of having been involved in it. After a slap-based filibuster from rubber band minority leader Bootsy Collins, the National Funk Congress remains deadlocked over the controversial Get Up, Get Down issue. Proponents of the measure favor getting on up and staying on the scene like a sex machine, while detractors are vehement in their belief that Americans need to get down with their bad selves.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Lori.
And Nikki.
And we have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. It's Free Talk Live, and if you didn't get that phone number, it's 603-283-6160. You can call in with whatever is on your mind. You can change the subject, or you can talk about what we're talking about, whatever your opinions are on it. And starting off tonight, we have a creepy story. This is from Fox 26, and unless you want to read the story you have about it, about the Jackson, Mississippi jail, or I can read this.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, you can read that one if you want.
We have this story that says 215 bodies found in Jackson, Mississippi exposed. And that just doesn't sound good. Sounds like a serial killer or something. But it might be even worse. It might have been cops. It says, an alarming situation has unfolded in Jackson, Mississippi, where 215 bodies were discovered buried in unmarked graves behind a state jail. Families of the deceased were left in the dark until last month. Some grave sites were only identified by a number and a metal rod, raising concerns about the lack of transparency and respect in handling the deceased. The families of the deceased's attorneys are calling for a thorough investigation into the circumstances around these unmarked graves. Why would a jail be burying people on their property?
I think it's just a coincidence that it's behind the jail.
Oh.
I don't know if it's related to it. I guess allegedly the story is like when there's, when you find a dead body, you're not able to identify it. No one comes forward looking for their family member, or you try to get people to identify the body and no one can identify it. Then they would just bury them in these unmarked graves. I guess that's how typically that would happen. But a lot of the family members were saying like, no one asked us. I guess one of the guys had an ID in his pocket. So clearly you can identify that person if they have identification on them. And 215 kind of sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
You think that it would be a rare thing to have somebody not be identifiable that has died?
So is there a graveyard behind this prison?
Yeah,
is that what they're saying?
It's essentially a graveyard. I don't know if it's like an official graveyard or if it's just it's just a bunch of kind of unmarked graves. They're like being marked with like numbers
in a metal rod.
Yeah,
but they're not prisoners, or they are prisoners.
I don't think they're prisoners. No,
that's what was
because I think one guy,
most.
it was. I don't remember the specifics, but there were like a whole bunch of different people. And it seems like the cops have something to do with it. Like cops like, oh, I accidentally killed this person. So instead of like talking about it, we're just going to bury them and not tell their family.
Anytime you have the ability of a government worker to, we put them in the unmarked grave because we tried and no one came forward, then they're probably going to abuse that power.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's going to get them out of trouble or just, completely go around the whole situation.
If the families know who they are, how are they unmarked graves?
Because I think they were digging people up. I don't know if this particular article gets into it, but I was interested. I read a few different articles about this because I don't know. There's a lot of things that aren't adding up with it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of these articles there's still a lot of unanswered questions, but there's a civil rights attorney that is representing a few of the family members. So I'm assuming they're in that court case. Like a lot of this is going to be, dug up.
Yeah. It says the revelation began with Dexter Wade's death in March 2023, in which a police officer fatally hit him.
Yeah.
Shockingly, his family was not informed of his death, and he was buried without their knowledge. So did they just think he was missing?
Yeah. A lot of these people most of the people, I believe, were reported missing.
Wow.
So
And then their families just were looking for them and had no clue. And then I don't know how it came to be that they were digging up these graves, because it refers to them as unmarked graves, but
they know who they are.
Yeah, I guess they're identifying them after. I don't know how you would do that. I have no clue.
I think that it says that they know who he was because the police officer hit him.
Yeah.
So they know who he was, and they're still burying him in unmarked graves.
Yeah.
So that's definitely sketchy.
Yeah, absolutely.
What?
It says activist Arthur Silky Slim Reed, working alongside attorney Ben Crump, they have some crazy names, sheds light on the distressing details. Wade's case took a disturbing turn when it was revealed that he had identification on him. So obviously they knew who he was. This identification was given to the lead detective by the medical examiner. However, the detective claimed to have called without receiving an answer and took no further action. So
Which is
I called
crazy in and of itself. I mean, calling, you need to do more, especially if this person is identified
and killed by one of probably his officers.
Yeah, you think that they would just be held in like a funeral home type situation. You know how they have like the fridges with the bodies. I mean, they'll keep bodies in there for years, trying to either solve
or keep calling or something,
or keep calling, like send a letter. Yeah, like something. Go
knock
to
on their
house.
door. Yeah, one phone call and they're like, oh, no one answered.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Reed says the situation in Mississippi is deeply troubling, with 6 additional bodies now discovered in similar unmarked graves. Reed describes the grim scene at the burial site where buzzards flew overhead. The bodies were placed in shadowed graves without embalming, leading to a disturbing stench that attracted scavengers. He emphasizes the inhumanity of such treatment and calls for a more dignified handling of the deceased.
So it doesn't sound... I was under the impression that this was like an official thing where it was like, yeah, this is just where we bury, you know, if there's no family to pay for a funeral, obviously that costs like several $1,000s.
You would think that they would like cremate those people. It would just be easier, right? Maybe they used to do something like that.
Or I don't know if that's more expensive, but this sounds like someone, like they were hiding something, and this was not an official thing at all, that these are just like some cops burying people, and they're like, well, I mean, behind the jailhouse sounds like a good spot. I mean, what else are we gonna do? We left a voice, you know, we didn't even leave a voicemail. We had one missed call on this lady's phone, and she didn't answer, so we figured we'd just, you know,
how long has this been going on for 215 people to be back there?
I know, right? That's what I was wondering. That sounds like...
Because that's what I was saying, too. I'm like, you wouldn't think that there'd be that many people that aren't able to be identified. Because if someone's reporting... Typically, everyone has at least a friend or a family member that if they go missing, it's very rare that somebody would have no one to be looking for them if they were missing.
And the population of Jackson, Mississippi is only 149,000. It's not like it's like, oh, a city of several million.
Yeah.
You'll never know who it was. Like, how many people are like all online talking about their missing brother, you know, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like if somebody, I don't know that in relation to like Keene's population, for example, just because that's the city that we're in right now in New Hampshire. But I think if anyone went missing in Keene, even like, you know, there's a pretty big homeless camp. Even one of the homeless people, like if anyone at all went missing in Keene, someone would be looking for them. You know what I mean? Like someone would be able to identify a body to give them some sort of proper burial.
It's around the size of Manchester. I guess it's a little bigger than Manchester, and I don't live in Manchester, but I still feel like it would be like going around on Twitter. A lot of people would know about it.
Yeah, you could say the same thing about Manchester. Like the statement I just made about Keene, you could probably say the same thing about Manchester, you know? So I just think it's very unlikely. I mean, clearly they weren't even trying to identify these people, and that one gentleman had his identification in his pocket.
Yep.
So
well,
they were
obviously.
clearly just trying to cover it up.
It's like, I don't understand why you get to bury someone in an unmarked grave just because their mom didn't answer her phone. It's not like you still have to do something else because you know who he is. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, why do you even have to call his mom? Or I think it was his mom, or maybe they just said a loved one. I don't know. It says the families affected were not notified, and many still believed that their loved ones were missing. Reed emphasizes that this issue extends beyond race, as both white and black individuals are buried in the same manner. The lack of identification and the practice of assigning only numbers to the graves further compound the anguish of the families involved. Despite the alarming nature of these revelations, a humane resolution is needed. Reed, Crump, and attorney Dennis Week advocate for a federal investigation to uncover the truth behind these unmarked graves. They also advocate for the potential violation of civil rights in cases like Dexter Wade's, who got hit by a cop and they just buried him. In Dexter Wade's case, numerous civil rights were violated. These included failing to notify the family and burying him without permission, despite knowing his identity. Reed expresses deep concern about the actions taken by the authorities, considering an ongoing lawsuit involving the police, and the families affected are demanding justice and transparency. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I wish that there were stories, more to the story about, you know, why are there 215 bodies?
It just seems like there's so much more to this story. I'm probably going to keep following this because they have a whole case about it, and there's like civil rights attorneys that are representing them. Yeah, that's just pretty. It's crazy.
What is even the process for that? They just hit him with their car and they're like, well, he died. Go throw him in a hole. Like, what kind of process do they go through? Nothing, apparently.
I mean, it would literally, according to the law, they would need to report that. You would need to take them to the hospital, even if somebody was dead. And this goes beyond cops, anyone at all who hits someone with their car, whether it's an accident or purpose. What you're supposed to do is bring them to the hospital, especially if you're a police officer.
Right.
You legally, you know, like per your job description and just being a human, you need to take them. Even if they're dead on site, you need to call 911. They need to go to the hospital, and then a doctor needs to proclaim them dead.
Yeah, there needs to be a time of death and all then that death certificate.
It needs to, there is a whole process that is supposed to
The county medical examiner, I think, is the one who has to do that, right? Yeah.
It's like if I can't bury my own loved one in my backyard,
right.
If that's like a whole thing and I'm going to go to jail about it,
yeah,
I mean, you'd think that cops would too, right? If they bury some random guy that they hit with their car.
If you do something
in an
like
unmarked grave,
become some kind of
a
church.
Embalmed?
Well, that's what it said, that they weren't embalmed, and that's why it was a stench.
Yeah.
And also, it kept mentioning that they were shadowed graves, and maybe that is another no-no. Like, now that I think about it, most graveyards are like, they're not really like, you're not gonna be in a shadow, right? I don't know if that's on purpose.
Shallow.
It was talking about shadowed, and I was like, I wonder if that has something.
When I read it, my brain said shallow, just because that is what made sense to me.
Yeah, weird.
I don't know what that because it needs to be at least 6 feet, right? That's
But I would think they have to be embalmed. It's probably a law that you have to be embalmed.
I think so,
because of diseases and
and that's why I said that there was a stench.
Yeah, well, that's why a lot of people started like would prefer to be cremated, because obviously embalming, I mean, you're putting chemicals into the soil. There's a whole like environmental effect that happens with that. So a lot of people are being cremated to avoid that environmental effect, or just for whatever reason.
And some people just want to be like, I don't really have a strong preference, but I'm sure lots of people have a very strong preference and probably have it written down somewhere, where if you called his mom, he would be able to tell you, because it's like, in his
how
will.
they're buried.
Yeah, like a will,
buried
or something.
Were they in coffins? Like, were they just thrown in a hole?
It sounds like they were just thrown in a hole.
That's
like,
I cannot find more information about this. Like, I
Yeah,
clicked
no,
on and
I was looking because it really piqued my interest. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I've heard of other things happening in Jackson, Mississippi, like allegedly their drinking water. And this was over a year ago.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the show at some point. But they had bad drinking water, like people weren't able to, like on Flint, Michigan level, like where they could not drink the drinking water. That is probably still going on. And I think one of the articles I read is like, what is going on in Jackson, Mississippi? Like the drinking water, like this, that, the other thing. Like there's kind of a lot of bad things happening there.
yeah, I mean, Mississippi definitely seems like a police state. So that's just a really creepy, weird news story to start you guys out with. I kind of thought there'd be more about this because you would think they would know more about why there's 215 bodies, and it's only talking
Yeah.
about the one guy, really. I mean, I think it only talked about the guy named Wade, who got hit by a cop, and then the cops just buried him without contacting his. I'm sorry. They called his. I think they said his mom, because at one point in one of the articles I was reading, it said his mom continued looking for him for over a year, who went
So
missing.
sad.
He only got hit an hour after leaving the house,
That
and
is
she's
so
just
sad,
like,
and it's
my
like-
son's missing, her only son.
No closure,
Mhm.
right? Like when someone's missing, obviously, like worst case scenario is that you find out they're dead,
Mhm.
right? But at least I would think someone like a loved one being missing for several years, like that is almost worse than them being dead. Like you still have that glimmer of hope, but it's just like nagging at you. It's like, where's my son? Where's my son? And then you don't get that. At least, it's like, okay, he's passed away. We can have the funeral. We can have the services. And then you can move on and have some sort of closure, because that's what a lot of funerals are. Like, that's what it is. It's closure for the family so they can move forward and heal and do whatever spiritual or mental thing that they need to do to be okay after they lose a loved one.
Yeah,
And she was just completely robbed of that for years.
yeah.
And now I can't imagine how she feels knowing that his body was disrespected in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're questioning the police. Like, I'm sure, most people in Jackson, Mississippi, especially, I would think most black people around the country are very skeptical of police and are probably very nervous around police. I think
I feel like most of
everyone-
the cops are probably black there.
maybe,
Why
but
wasn't the cop arrested for vehicular manslaughter like anyone else would
Like
be?
anyone else would
Yeah.
be. Why aren't we talking about these people like they're a group of serial killers who
Yeah.
killed 215 people?
Right.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
like,
it's because we don't have enough information for one
But-
thing.
But yeah, I
don't
mean,
know why
like,
that's, like,
there's
hidden.
like, what kind of justice is going to happen? None, probably.
None.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm glad there is at least an attorney taking the case, but I mean, like a civil rights attorney, like this goes beyond a civil rights issue. I mean, like this is a murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is the guy who was in charge of calling the mom and just made one call and then buried him in an unmarked grave was the detective. Like, is he really good at his job?
Well, they're all, homies. So
Yeah.
Yeah, he was probably covering up.
Exactly.
They were. This is probably a case
probably
where
let
it's
it ring
like,
for half a ring and hung it up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I made the call. It's on record now.
They're-
I called.
They're covering up. I'm sure there were a lot of people that were knowledgeable about this situation, and they were just covering it up.
Well, they had to be. And how does the prison not know that there's a bunch of bodies being buried behind it? Like,
Especially if there's a
Yeah.
stench. And also how did the prison
they're
not
all-
see them burying? Well, okay, it's them. If that's why.
right, it's them.
That's the only
They're
thing that
all
makes any
the
sense.
same-
Because a prison would notice people digging behind it
right. They'd
Yeah.
be like, why are-
215 times.
yeah, that would set off some suspicion. People digging around a prison,
Yep.
but not if it's your buddies.
Yep.
Yeah, this is
That's
Crazy.
so sick. Seriously weird and sick. And I really want to know how long it went on for, but there's just not more information on the internet as much as I can find in a quick Google search while trying to do a radio show at least. But speaking of murder, we have this opinion piece from Al Jazeera, and it's titled, "Why is Biden Engaging in Disinformation on Gaza?" U.S. administrations have a long track record of lying to justify their bloody foreign adventures. And he says, "When my wife was pregnant with our first child, she gave me a book about prenatal development. I learned that a baby's lungs are among the last organs to develop. That's why so many premature infants need to be intubated. This fact came to me as I watched the Israeli terror unfold in Al-Shifa hospital 8 weeks ago now. I became fixated on the 39 premature babies there, the ones who were evacuated from the neonatal intensive care unit into 2 beds wrapped with foil. I pictured them gasping for breath, slowly dying.
That's awful. Wow. My gosh.
Then came the news that 5 nameless infants were discovered decomposing in Al-Nasir Pediatric Hospital, abandoned after the Israeli army forced the medical staff and patients to flee. I pictured how they died alone, cold, and in terror. I cannot doubt that senior officials in the Biden administration have seen the images and videos. I have to believe that many of them are horrified by what they have seen. I don't have to believe that.
I was about to say, I don't think they are horrified. I think they're
like, whatever. And I also believe that their awareness of the horror and their awareness of their active participation in producing it is in part what leads them to fabricate intelligence estimates and tell outright lies. I'm not really sure what an intelligence estimate is. Sounds like a government word for a lie. But there is something else at work in the Biden administration's effort to disseminate fake Israeli news. Disinformation has been a potent weapon in war and in the commission of genocide, and it has been used frequently, perhaps to diminishing effect in the modern media age. The U.S. government is not very credible when it comes to intelligence. Yeah, they all just lie to do whatever they want. Recall Secretary of State Colin Powell's cheap performance at the United Nations in 2003 when he accused Iraq of possessing weapons of mass destruction and presented a prop vial containing white powder as evidence. Whoa, I didn't know he did that. I knew that he lied about weapons of mass destruction, but I didn't know he had a prop. But in matters of war, a crummy presentation and half-hearted delivery is sometimes good enough. Powell's antics didn't fool anyone, but his presentation was enough to distract from the impending catastrophe. We learned over time what we knew all along. There were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, and the only uranium yellow cake to speak of was baked up by British and American spies. But the lies about Iraq were nothing new. Powell's effort was one memorable example out of a series of disinformation acts designed by the U.S. government to shape public perceptions. And it's just disgusting how they have done this for so long. Whenever that guy, Henry Kissinger, died recently at 100 years old, we read about all the dirty stuff he did his whole life, and it was basically his job. He was basically the one going around like, let me think up how to lie about this thing to get the American public to back this war, blah, blah, blah. He is responsible for thousands more dying than were necessary in Vietnam, just because he wanted the Vietnam War to go on a little longer because it was helpful in whoever he wanted to win the presidency to win. So he pushed the Vietnam War continuing just to get somebody voted in.
Yeah, meanwhile, thousands of people are dying on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't matter to them, though.
Of course not.
And then he's just like celebrated in the media, except Rolling Stones had a pretty awesome article calling him a mass murderer. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. 603-283-6160.
Free Talk Live.
Well, the ones that seek to destroy all nations in order to bring about a global domination of a one-world government, the biggest weapon that they have is rock and roll. And
isn't rock and roll dead?
You laugh.
Rock and roll's been dead for years.
It's embarrassed laughter because you know it's true.
Okay,
who's living in 1970?
Wait a second.
The origin of rock and roll is in voodoo. The devil created rock and roll, and it's used to rob man of his freedom. And you cannot go into a department store or any store in the U.S., any public space in the U.S., without hearing the African drums of voodoo. And it's used.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern at freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. A helicopter contracted by the United Nations has been captured by al-Shabaab in Somalia. 6 of the 9 people reportedly on board were taken captive by the group. William Denslow reports from New York, where the UN is headquartered.
According to the New York Times, 2 people on board the helicopter managed to escape, while 1 person was killed. A spokesperson for the United Nations Secretary-General says a response effort is underway, but wouldn't be drawn on details for the safety of those that were aboard the helicopter. The helicopter, linked to the UN support office in Somalia, was reportedly captured after it made an emergency landing in territory controlled by al-Shabaab. William Denslow, New York.
Republican Party lawmakers in the United States House of Representatives are holding their first hearing to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Galvanized by what they see as a crisis on the US-Mexico border, they want to impeach the man who oversees immigration enforcement. It would be the first cabinet secretary to be impeached in nearly 150 years. Benji Hire reports.
Republicans remain laser-focused on the Biden administration's handling of the southern border, with officials there processing an estimated 300,000 people last month alone. Alejandro Mayorkas is in the spotlight, fresh off a visit to Eagle Pass in Texas, among the nation's most frequented places for migrant crossings from Mexico, which reached new heights in December. His trip came less than a week after House Speaker Mike Johnson and several other lawmakers pushing for Secretary Mayorkas' impeachment also travelled to the border town, where they called him the greatest domestic threat to the safety of the American people, claiming he's refusing to enforce the law and failing to keep the country secure. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden's huge spending package, which includes funding for border security, remains stalled in Congress. Benji Hire, Washington.
The final Republican debate before the US state of Iowa votes on who they want to lead the party for November's election will feature just 2 candidates. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley will square off against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Frontrunner Donald Trump is again refusing to take part. US correspondent Nick Harper reports.
The Wednesday night debate will see just Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis on stage. 3 other candidates have failed to qualify, and the former president, Donald Trump, is once again sitting it out. Instead of attending the debate, which will play out on news network CNN, Trump will take part in a town hall on Fox News at exactly the same time, guaranteeing that he'll be the only person on stage. It'll be a high-stakes night for Haley and DeSantis, who are both trying to offer an alternative to Trump, who remains far ahead in the polls. All the candidates have spent weeks campaigning in Iowa, the first in the nation's state where Republican voters on Monday will choose who they want challenging Joe Biden in November's presidential election. I'm Nick Harp.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori,
and Nikki.
And we've been talking about a few different things tonight on Free Talk Live, including 215 bodies found behind a jail in Jackson, Mississippi, unmarked buried humans that at least one of them the cops killed. So make of that what you will, because we don't know much more about it than that. Apparently, one of the the chatters in the chat told me that the lady whose son it was that the cops hit by a car is the same lady whose brother was beaten to death by a cop, I think the year before. And the cop actually got convicted by a jury of manslaughter for that. So maybe this was retaliation, not like hitting her son and not telling her.
Oh gosh.
But now we're talking about the Gaza and Israel war. But first, I want to tell you that Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash, digital cash. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash with bitrefill.com, where you can buy gift cards from big retailers including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and use Dash. You can learn more at dash.org. That's dash.org. And thank you to Dash. In last segment, we were reading an opinion piece by Al Jazeera from Ahmed Moore, Palestinian-American writer, it says. And he has a bone to pick with the way that the government treats, well, the way that the government lies in order to get their, as he calls it, bloody foreign adventures funded and justified and support behind them. He says, in matters of war, a crummy presentation and half-hearted delivery is sometimes good enough. Powell's antics didn't fool anyone, but his presentation was enough to distract from the impending catastrophe. And he's talking about in Iraq, when we went to war in Iraq, the government went to war in Iraq in 2003, Colin Powell held up a fake vial of white powder when he lied that Iraq was in possession of weapons of mass destruction. And I had never heard that story before, that he held up a vial of white powder.
I hadn't either.
And it was...
What was it even supposed to be?
I don't know. Uranium yellow cake, maybe? That's what they mention here.
You know what? I feel like I did hear about that, and it was a lie.
Is it not yellow?
That's what I was wondering. That's exactly what I was wondering. I have no idea. Maybe, I don't know, oh, wait, not asbestos. Never mind. I don't know. I don't know enough about murderous weapons. Sorry, Lori.
I don't know either.
It was really just his personal cocaine stash.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And he was like, oh, I need something for a prop.
This will work. They'll buy this.
Says, but the lies about Iraq were nothing new. Powell's effort was one memorable example out of a series of disinformation acts designed by the U.S. government to shape public perceptions. Perhaps the most infamous instance occurred in 1964 in the Gulf of Tonkin, off the coast of Vietnam. Back then, the U.S. fabricated a story about a firefight with North Vietnamese forces there. The goal was to push an escalation of that war domestically. It worked, and millions of Vietnamese civilians were killed in a conflict without a purpose. Wow. Today, President Joe Biden and his advisors are plainly lying to us. They claim to have seen independent intelligence indicating the presence of a Hamas military installation underneath Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza. Even if that was the case, wouldn't you do it a different way instead of killing people, including babies?
They all lie.
Mm-hmm.
Every time that there's a war, it's full of lies.
Just in general.
Yeah, and for everything else, right?
Yeah,
just
politicians, bureaucrats, that's what they do. They
to
lie.
drive their agenda, whether that agenda is war or
I think most
something
people
else.
are enough against baby murder that they would at least have to get lied to get themselves in a position where they're like, yeah, this is fine.
You would think so, but it doesn't seem that way.
It's
Yeah.
also like out of sight, out of mind for some people. It seems like they're like, well,
they're detached.
Doesn't really affect me, or they just don't even want to hear it. They're like, I'm gonna go watch reality TV instead.
Yeah.
Yep. It says today, President Joe Biden and his advisors are plainly lying to us. They claim to have seen independent intelligence indicating the presence of a Hamas military installation underneath Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza. Biden, speaking with reporters, has said, the first war crime is being committed by Hamas by having their headquarters, their military, under a hospital. That's a fact. That's what happened. Only, of course, it didn't. Many did not believe the president, but again, that's beside the point. Misinformation serves a useful purpose from the point of view of the people who practice it. Propaganda muddies perceptions of what is happening. Like, you just hear about a thing and you don't really care enough to go look it up because it's just not an issue. Like, you have to go get groceries or whatever. You're just a busy person, and you hear this idea that, well, you just like walked past the TV and Joe Biden is saying, that's a fact. They had a military installation under a hospital, and then maybe the very next hour, the same news station is saying, oh, by the way, that didn't happen. Well, it's too late now. Like, the effect has already been done on that person. Their perception has been muddied.
Yeah.
It says, our media feel compelled to cover breaking news as it happens, and government officials are regarded as speaking authoritatively when they do. Deference to the office of the presidency is deeply rooted, and by definition, the president's words are newsworthy. That deference, combined with the president's prominence as a source of news, means that presidential lies aren't confronted directly, even as they are broadcast widely. If the untruths are subsequently challenged, the challenges are not treated as newsworthy. By sowing confusion and misinformation, the president diminishes the potency of an electorate's understanding of and forceful opposition to violence. In that way, disinformation is used to untether policymaking from the ordinary accountability mechanism of democracy. Yeah, right. But there are early signs that disinformation doesn't operate in the way it used to. Today, the speed of the news cycle is such that the first lie has barely even been uttered before the next lie has been debunked. Al-Shifa was on our minds, even as Israeli leaders attempted to lay the groundwork for their further atrocities in Khan Yunis and Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip. Now they have destroyed nearly all of Gaza's 36 hospitals, and Al-Shifa and Al-Nasir Pediatric Hospital continues to be on our minds. And now, as the world turns to South Africa's credible charge of genocide targeting Israel, wow, I didn't hear about that. The White House has chosen to release new intelligence, doubling down on their original falsehood at Al-Shifa. To what purpose isn't clear, but the timing suggests the tired playbook is still at work.
So they're talking about how our media and how there's so much media coverage of everything now. And I think that's another real problem, and why people are so ill-informed is because it's an overload of constant information. Yeah. I was looking today, at some stuff about the whole Trump thing going on, and I was scrolling through.
Do you mean about his thing about not getting on the ballot in Colorado?
So much.
Possibly.
There's so much. That was the thing. Right. That's what I was going to say. Is I was scrolling through, and it was just like story after story after story after story after story, like of things that could have all just been put into one story, because everybody's in a race to cover it as soon as it happens.
Yep. So then they'll come out. Oh, more details. More details.
Yeah, and then
they break it into,
it was actually different. It's not how we said it before. It's actually like this now, and everyone's confused because they're so overloaded with this information that they're done. They don't even want to know now.
Yeah.
They just read the headline and move on.
I was talking about this the other day, where I don't know if you guys remember in I think it was in Ohio, where that train was derailed and there was a bunch of like toxic fumes going up into the air. That happened
in Ohio.
Yeah, that happened 6, 7, 8 months ago.
Yeah,
not
sounds
like
right.
within a year, right? And I'm like, I guess we all just forgot about that, right? Like I could list.
I don't even think it was that long ago.
Probably not.
Yeah.
If I racked my brain, I could think of so many like big, major headline news events that people were making a huge deal about for 2 weeks.
Yep.
That I bet all of those people that were like really, even myself included, some things that I made a really big deal about, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Because you're constantly like so overloaded with all of this, with social media, with just going on the internet, with all of these different news sources. I mean, I'm sure if you watch the news on like cable TV, it's even worse, or listen to, certain radio stations, it's even worse. We're just constantly being bombarded and overloaded with all of this information that it's meaningless.
When I first got back to New England, we went to go visit my uncle, and when we walked in, he had, I think it was CNN on just constantly the whole time we were there. It was just on playing in the background. I'm like, how do you live like that? I would go insane just listening to the news constantly.
Yeah, it's like brainwashing, almost like subliminal messaging just in the back of your head all the time.
And it makes it even worse when there's a whole bunch of celebrity news mixed in and just stuff that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, it's like politics mixed with like pop culture, you know what I mean?
And then the celebrities giving their opinions on politics too. Like, who cares what you think?
Yeah, they had Pauly D from Jersey Shore talking about inflation on Fox News.
What the heck?
Though?
And it's like, okay, if you didn't already accept that Fox News is a joke and it's not a real news organization. Once they brought Pauly D on, who was famous on the Jersey Shore for like getting drunk and having sex.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when are we going to give it up?
Why do people even care what any of these celebrities have to say about anything?
It's not your
Go
area of
and
expertise.
entertain. That's what you're doing.
That's the thing. It's like, it's not like, I wouldn't go. Why would they bring me on Fox News to talk about whatever, something I have no clue about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could say that about, it's not the fact that they're a celebrity. It's like, you're not an expert in that field.
Right.
If I want to learn about economics, if we're going to talk about inflation,
let's get
bring
Snooki on
an
here.
economist.
Yeah.
Like, bring someone who, like, bring someone who is an expert in that field. Don't, you know what I mean? Like,
it's absurd.
It's just like reaching for more news.
Yeah, it's like, oh, cool. I love Pauly D. I'm going to watch Fox News now. No one thought that. It's just like, I mean, I'm sure somebody thought that, but
maybe. He's not even relevant, is he?
Right.
He's like a washed up celebrity from like the early 2000s. Like, I
don't
no
even
clue.
understand any of
I don't know
of that.
Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
I've
never seen it.
So into
like
Jersey
I know who
Shore.
they are.
Me and my friends in 7th grade would like have sleepovers and watch the new episode, but I don't even know why at this point. Like, it's such a distant memory.
Because you were in 7th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking about that recently, actually. But I found an article about this South Africa taking Israel to court. I hadn't heard about this at all.
I don't know if I've heard about that.
This is from today. It says South Africa takes Israel to court. Pretoria accuses, is that their capital? Honestly, I don't know.
I have no clue.
Accuses the Israeli government of genocide before the ICJ in The Hague.
Wow.
Is The Hague Netherlands? In Netherlands? Yep, it says members of the jury sit in the International Court of Justice in The Hague, the Netherlands, on January 27th, 2014. So that was like an old picture, but it's just showing it. But this is from today. It says, welcome to Foreign Policy's Africa Brief. Oh, okay. What? Why is it just telling me highlights? It says, South Africa's application to the International Court of Justice seeks to have the court declare Israel's military assault on Gaza a genocide, and it will be heard starting on Thursday in The Hague. Israel has called the allegations baseless and accused South Africa of cooperating with a terrorist organization. Wait, oh, I see it. They're trying to say, Israel's trying to say that South Africa is cooperating with Hamas, which is a terrorist organization.
So it's the other way around?
What do you mean?
Israel is taking South Africa?
No. So that's their response. So South Africa is going to the International Court of Justice to try to have Israel's military assault declared a genocide.
Now. Okay.
And that's what they're saying back. So states including Turkey and Jordan have backed the case. Malaysia publicly offered South Africa its support. Malaysia's foreign ministry described the proceedings as a timely and tangible step toward legal accountability for Israel's atrocities. Israel finds it is having to defend itself against arguments based on a convention that was drawn up in part to prevent a repetition of the Holocaust. Which killed 6 million Jews. So that just shows that...
So they're like, now war's fine, but you can't have war for specific reasons.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like, war's okay, but you just have to do war in this specific way.
The right way.
Yeah.
Which is what I always found weird about, like, just like war laws in general. Like, oh, you killed that person wrong, now you go to jail. But other killing people is not even called murder in legally in jail. I mean, in war.
And then the solution for it is to sue them, I guess.
It's honestly, it's a joke.
Yeah. It's bizarre.
These people are animals.
And what are they going to get if they win the suit? What happens then?
They're going to attack Israel with more military forces? Like, I have no clue.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? And
it's going to get Israel's actions declared genocide, but what is that? What goes from there? Like, do they then get to destroy Israel or something?
Right.
Well, I mean,
kill
like,
innocent people there?
Thinking back to World War II, because I am a nerd when it comes to World War II, and that's what I know a lot about. When it came to like getting Germany to surrender, then, you know, they had all the treaties and they made them agree to all of these terms at the threat of violence. right?
Isn't that what war is anyway?
Yeah.
You agree to this stuff at the threat of violence?
Yeah, now it's like, okay, well, you lost the war. So now, yeah, more of that, I guess.
I don't understand.
Says the application asks the ICJ to take interim measures to immediately suspend Israel's operations in Gaza, and take all reasonable measures to prevent genocide. In its 84-page brief, South Africa cites alleged incitement by top Israeli officials, including the defense minister Yoav Gallant, who referred to Palestinians in Gaza as human animals, as well as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's comparison of Palestinians to the biblical story of the Amalek nation, which God ordered the Israelites to destroy.
Yeah.
Whoa, I hadn't heard that.
It literally, I mean, they're just being racist.
Yeah.
So it's okay to be racist as long as you're not racist to Jewish people? Is that what this is? You know what I mean?
That's why it's kind of funny that
it's super ironic.
They're facing this situation where they are having to defend themselves against arguments that are based on a convention that was drawn up in part to prevent a repetition of the Holocaust. It's like, I mean, obviously people are responsible for their own actions and no one alive is responsible for the Holocaust, but it's just like this government was created in response to the Holocaust.
Exactly.
And now they're killing people based on their race and calling them animals.
It's almost like that's just what governments do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how it came about or who lives there.
Every country that goes to war with another country, they have their own misinformation and
the propaganda, right? Wartime propaganda.
They call them names, and they all have their own little names for them: terrorists, insurgents.
I mean, the U.S. does it, right?
They all do
after
it.
9/11, it was like, the terrorists, and we're gonna make up fake terrorists, and we have to go to war because of the terrorists,
right?
And
it's nothing new.
We have to take away all of your freedoms because of the terrorists.
Yeah,
and
like,
it never
for your
ends.
freedom.
Like saying that civilians don't die in other wars. Civilians die in other wars. Every war is a Holocaust on the land of wherever it's being held. People are dying of whatever country that is. It just happened to be that the people that died in the Holocaust were, all of the same.
Targeted for a specific reason.
Yeah, targeted for a specific reason.
Yeah, instead of just, wrong place, wrong time.
Right.
I mean, well.
So I don't understand how they have any difference in anyone's mind. You're still killing innocent people.
You know what I hate about war in general? Anytime you start talking about how what's going on is wrong and somebody tells you, like, Lori, it's really complicated. Like, you don't know about all this stuff going
military
on.
guys love saying that. They're like, if only, like, if you've seen what I've seen, you'd know that we need to murder a bunch of people
that aren't even involved and had no place in any of this.
Like that, or just like somebody who's interested in like what's going on over there. Okay, yeah, I don't care who got mad at who for what. Killing people is wrong.
Right.
You do understand that, right? And they're like, no.
That's the thing too, and it's like so mind-blowing because like we teach children this stuff, right? So we teach children like, okay, don't hit your little brother, that's mean.
Use your words.
Or use your words. Oh, you're having a conflict with another student at school. Instead of punching him in the face, you're supposed to talk about it, and you're supposed to come to a resolution. Like as a parent, that's your goal when you're like child rearing, right? Like, so we're teaching 5-year-olds this, right? But for some reason, I don't know why people think that the rules or like appropriate conduct changes once it's on this global military government style of scale.
Yeah, I hate when people are like, oh, it's just war. Like,
so now murder is okay? Because I'm pretty sure if I murdered one of you guys, that wouldn't be okay. And I think everyone would probably agree that that's not okay. But as soon as we start murdering thousands of people for this specific made up reason, then it's cool.
Like, recently I said to someone, I just hate when people repeat things that mean absolutely nothing in general, but in this specific context, it's so annoying. Whenever you say like, oh, I found out that Israel did this in Gaza, like something terrible, and someone responds to you, well, that's war. What does that mean?
What does that even mean?
That doesn't mean anything. It means zero. But I don't know. It's just that's how people think.
And it's like, okay, so just because it's war, that means it cancels out? Because I'm pretty sure
It's
if
more-
you lived there,
I think this
and
person-
it was your family, I'm pretty sure if you were getting bombed
I don't
and
think
raped
he was
and
saying
killed,
it's okay. He's just like, what do you do?
well, that's the thing. It's just a way
Something.
to
It's bad.
disregard.
Something.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. It's just a way to disregard what's happening. So even if
exactly.
it's like, okay, I don't think this is okay, but either way, it's like, I mean, if someone's actively speaking out against something that's wrong, and then you kind of just like want to shut them up because it's an uncomfortable topic, you might not be defending war, but you're still not in the right in that situation. And in my opinion.
I just,
You know?
I can't think of another example, but there's lots of things people say that I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, you're just repeating something you heard before, and I think it's what you're saying. It's a dismissal.
Yeah. Well, that's how, and I think that's how a lot of people just have conversations. Like, especially if you want to talk about like politics or like any sort of current event. What a lot of people do, and I'm not even saying me removed from this. Like, I'm sure I've done this before as well, but I think a lot of people have a habit of just regurgitating what they heard. And I've even heard like some of my family members do this who are like hardcore Fox News people, where they will just regurgitate what they have heard news anchors say on Fox News. And it's like, can you elaborate on that? Can you take that information and then, reflect on it and have an actual independent thought about that information that you just got into your head? Or are you just like, is it in and out? It's like, but that's what they said on Fox News. So
that's
like,
what the public school system is training you to do.
Yeah.
They want you to regurgitate information.
Yeah, absolutely.
For 18 years of your life. And then now you're trained to regurgitate information forever and just believe whatever you're fed.
Yeah.
It says Pretoria, which I Googled, and it is the capital of South Africa, argues Israel's military assault violates its obligations under the 1948 Genocide Convention, which must be the one that they are referring to, which defines genocide as acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group.
So basically war.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could be going to war against like a specific area of people, and they'll be like, oh, well, the ones in the other area are still going to survive, so you're not like destroying an entire race. And I'm not saying I really don't see the big difference, but they want to make a
this is the argument, right?
They want to make a statement that makes them look good. It makes them look like they're doing something. Oh, we came together and we signed this treaty, and now there will be no more genocide.
Except for the ones that we're going to now enact unless they stop. Right. That's what they're going to do. If they don't agree to the treaty, then they're going to kill them instead. Everyone's going to gang up on Israel and kill them, and then wouldn't it be a genocide still?
It's just wild to talk about this in real terms and realize that adult humans are sitting around killing each other if they don't agree with things. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's FFF at FFF.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. A helicopter contracted by the United Nations has been captured by al-Shabaab in Somalia. 6 of the 9 people reportedly on board were taken captive by the group. William Denslow reports from New York, where the UN is headquartered.
According to the New York Times, 2 people on board the helicopter managed to escape, while 1 person was killed. A spokesperson for the United Nations Secretary-General says a response effort is underway, but wouldn't be drawn on details for the safety of those that were aboard the helicopter. The helicopter, linked to the UN Support Office in Somalia, was reportedly captured after it made an emergency landing in territory controlled by al-Shabaab. The UN office provides support for an African Union-led peacekeeping mission on the ground. William Denslow, New York.
Republican Party lawmakers in the United States House of Representatives are holding their first hearing to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Galvanized by what they see as a crisis on the US-Mexico border, they want to impeach the man who oversees immigration enforcement. It would be the first cabinet secretary to be impeached in nearly 150 years. Benji Hire reports.
Republicans remain laser-focused on the Biden administration's handling of the southern border, with officials there processing an estimated 300,000 people last month alone. Alejandro Mayorkas is in the spotlight, fresh off a visit to Eagle Pass in Texas, among the nation's most frequented places for migrant crossings from Mexico, which reached new heights in December. His trip came less than a week after House Speaker Mike Johnson and several other lawmakers pushing for Secretary Mayorkas' impeachment also travelled to the border town, where they called him the greatest domestic threat to the safety of the American people, claiming he's refusing to enforce the law and failing to keep the country secure. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden's huge spending package, which includes funding for border security, remains stalled in Congress. Benji Hire, Washington.
The final Republican debate before the US state of Iowa votes on who they want to lead the party for November's election will feature just 2 candidates. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley will square off against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Frontrunner Donald Trump is again refusing to take part. US correspondent Nick Harper reports.
The Wednesday night debate will see just Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis on stage. 3 other candidates have failed to qualify, and the former president, Donald Trump, is once again sitting it out. Instead of attending the debate, which will play out on news network CNN, Trump will take part in a town hall on Fox News at exactly the same time, guaranteeing that he'll be the only person on stage. It'll be a high-stakes night for Haley and DeSantis, who are both trying to offer an alternative to Trump, who remains far ahead in the polls. All the candidates have spent weeks campaigning in Iowa, the first in the nation's state where Republican voters on Monday will choose who they want challenging Joe Biden in November's presidential election. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the moment an appeals court judge in Washington appeared to eviscerate a substantial part of the arguments advanced by Donald Trump's lawyers. They say their client enjoys blanket immunity from prosecution for any actions he took when he served in the presidency. It came during Tuesday's hearing, at which the former president was trying to avoid federal prosecution for allegedly attempting to subvert the outcome of the 2020 election. Judge Florence Pan, questioning Trump attorney D. John Sauer, appeared unmoved by the former president's case.
Your position is, if a president is impeached and convicted by Congress, then he is subject to criminal prosecution, correct?
That would be a necessary prosecution.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. So therefore, he's not completely and absolutely immune, because under the procedure that you concede, he can be prosecuted if there's an impeachment and conviction by the Senate. But doesn't that narrow the issues before us? All of your other arguments seem to fall away if you concede that a president can be criminally prosecuted under some circumstances.
Supporters of Donald Trump dismiss Judge Pan as a Biden appointee. They say she is part of ongoing efforts by the White House to interfere in the next presidential election. She is one of 3 judges on the panel who will determine the outcome of Trump's appeal. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. The Al-Shabaab militant group has captured a United Nations helicopter in Somalia with at least 6 people being taken hostage. US lawmakers are pushing forward with an impeachment of the Homeland Security Secretary. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story, and that's the latest from Feature Story News. Caroline Malone reporting.
Regarded by many as one of the fastest rising online personalities today, social media rock star Ryan Wasserman has 250,000 loyal Twitter followers and earns $28,000 a year at his job as an administrative assistant. The Onion spoke to the online luminary at KPL Insurance, where he works from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and makes roughly $13 an hour.
I'm just trying to bring my unique perspective to everybody. That's what my followers expect, and I like to think I deliver.
Wasserman, who currently has $900 in his checking account, regularly engages in conversations with high-profile celebrities and takes the bus to work from the 2-bedroom apartment he shares with a 23-year-old he met on Craigslist.
Actually, I just started a Tumblr because sometimes 140 characters just doesn't cut it. I just had a Google Glass tweet that Questlove retweeted again. KPL, this is Ryan. Yeah, I'm sorry, I totally forgot.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
Talk Live, talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the number for you to call. That's 603-283-6160. And I want to tell you about ForkFest 2024. Free Talk Live is brought to you by ForkFest, happening June 13th through the 16th at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. ForkFest is decentralized, so there is no ticket cost and no one is in charge. For more information and to connect with other attendees, you can visit the unofficial website forkfest.party. That's forkfest.party. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori, and Nikki.
And it looks like we... Oh, okay, fine. It looks like we have a caller. Caller, you're on Free Talk Live. Skeeter, what's on your mind?
It's your boy, the evolutionary capitalist. And you know why people don't mind war?
Who doesn't mind
It's
war?
my own personal economic and moral philosophy.
What? Can you repeat it?
Evolutionary capitalism is my own personal economic and moral philosophy. I think
okay.
Evolution will force it upon everybody. But everybody doesn't mind war because most people are more utilitarian than a religious hippie libertarian. You know what utilitarianism is, right?
I just don't know if I agree with that. I think
they're just mostly unconscious, I think.
That's what I think too, but I think most people
Let Nikki talk, please.
are religious, because I actually know a lot of like religious, like either Christian or Jewish folks that are kind of in favor of the war that's going on in Israel, or at least not like in favor of it per se, but they are definitely defending Israel's side because of their religion. But I also don't see any like utilitarian value in war.
Yeah, he always says
it seems
that
like
brings...
it would be the opposite, right? I guess, and you could make some argument for, like, it benefiting the economy.
It benefits, like, the
really
richest of the rich. It doesn't benefit the poor because we have to fund it.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
Skeeter
exactly.
disagrees.
That's why That's why I like war, because it bankrupts the state. They don't profit from it.
Oh, yeah, that's what he thinks, and he's so dumb. That makes no sense. It definitely doesn't bankrupt the state,
I also
and they
don't
do
think
profit
it's
from
worth
it.
it.
It's like...
That's really gross to say that you like war, period.
Yeah.
I don't even care
Like,
what happened, what you say after that.
Exactly. He thinks like, oh, well, you think the state's bad, Nikki. Well, he's wrong. It's in his initial
To
assumption,
me,
he's wrong.
like, two
but
wrongs
even
don't
if
make
he
a
wasn't,
right.
yeah, even if he wasn't wrong, it's just disgusting. That's what I hate about utilitarianism. And that just means, if the listeners don't know, or if anyone listening doesn't know, utilitarianism just means the means are justified by the ends. So if somebody has to die for Skeeter's vision to be true, and thank you for the call, Skeeter, or to come true for the greater good or whatever, then he is fine with that. And I'm not okay with that. It's disgusting, terrible. It basically, to know what utilitarianism is, it just means to not have actual principles or morals. That's basically what it means. Like, why even have an ends you want to get to? You don't have morals. It's stupid.
No value for human life.
Yeah. And he might
Yeah, that
try to
sucks.
say, like, Turd tried to call in one time. His name is Turd Ferguson. Pretty sure that's his real name. And he called in one time trying to say, Nikki, Bonnie, Arya, if you could stop a bomb,
yeah.
1 million people were going to die, but I don't remember what it was, but one person had to be killed in order for it to happen. You would do it, right? And we were just like, no. Like, it's not my fault somebody's about to kill 1 million people. I'm not going to have it on my eternal soul that I killed this one person just because I was afraid that there was a terror attack impending. He's like, no. You knew for sure it was impending. And I was like, this is just such a stupid what if.
That's kind of why I hate stuff like that, just because it's like these crazy examples that are never going to happen.
Exactly.
And even if they do, like, nothing happens inside of a vacuum. And it's like, okay, but you're never going to, like, absolutely 100% for sure know that this is definitely going to happen. That's just not, like, the way reality is. And I'm just not even interested in, like, I don't know, like, if it's not, like, based in reality, I'm, like, not even really interested in
Exactly.
like, you know what I mean? Like, in scenarios like that, it's like, it's just a waste of time, honestly.
It is a waste of time because it's not like you're discussing, so it's not like you're getting closer to the truth. You're just trying to make your point.
That's the
but
thing. It's
without
like
reality.
you're just exactly like, and when people do stuff like that, and Skeeter does this too, and in that case, Turd Ferguson was doing it, where it's like, no, I'm just gonna get you to, like, admit to this thing to prove my point.
It's so stupid.
And it's like, I'm also not interested in proving your point, so I refuse to play that.
Well, we had just finished up this article. The last thing I'm going to say about it is just that the capital of South Africa, is trying to get the International Court of Justice to declare what Israel is doing in Gaza a genocide. And I don't really blame them for this, but I also just don't really see... I don't know. Do they need this in order to stop more deaths? Or... I don't know. I guess I just don't know what it means, what comes next. So don't really know what I think about that, but it's breaking kind of interesting news that South Africa is taking to Israel to court. I didn't expect them, like, do they have a lot of, like, Palestinian refugees or something? I don't know.
I don't know, or maybe they just, I mean, it's really far away, right?
Seems pretty far away, yeah.
I mean,
Bottom
it's
of
like
Africa.
all the way at the end of Africa. I don't know if they are allies of some sort. I mean,
they must be, right?
I would think that they would be, because I couldn't see a country speaking out against something unless it somehow benefited them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, look at this. It looks like we have Turd Ferguson calling. Turd
to
from
defend his
Pennsylvania.
honor.
What's on your mind?
Yeah, hello. I was in my office a little bit ago, and I think I heard in the other room, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I heard a couple people misrepresenting my opinion, and I just wanted to call in and correct the record.
Okay, it was like a year ago that you made that call. So go ahead.
Okay, well, so my example of a situation where it would be acceptable to violate the non-aggression principle was if we had a person who was in the same chat room, for example, as a bunch of terrorists plotting a terrorist attack, which actually has happened, to be clear. it would then be acceptable for the federal government to torture that person, to find the names of the attackers so we could stop them from killing thousands of innocent people. And let me just be very clear about this. I'm actually against torture, and I think it's wrong, and I think it's immoral. But when you're talking about making one person say owie to save the lives of thousands of innocent people who, by the way, probably agree with you.
I'm pretty sure you said that we'd have to kill them. I don't think it was making them say owie. Oh, whatever.
Well, torture. Now it's coming back to me. I do remember the torture example.
Okay, torture is not the same thing as just hurting someone once or something. I mean, torture is like just on the same level as death to me. Like torturing someone, yeah, it is.
It kind of feels like worse, honestly. Right. I'd rather just die. Just kill me. Don't torture me, please. That's
exactly.
That's worse than dying.
Hold on a second. If I waterboard somebody until they tap out and tell me information that I need to know, what have I done that really makes their life worse afterwards? I've waterboarded
that's like
them,
psychological torture, though.
Yeah.
You know
this
what I mean?
is just proof that Turd has a bunch of prostitutes that are dead in his basement because he doesn't understand that it has hurt somebody's life to torture them.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a bunch of prostitutes dead in my basement. You really got me there. You got me now.
The chat has been figuring this out for a while. Pennsylvania
is
this not
like a
safe.
cult? Yeah, this is an ongoing investigation. I didn't know about this.
Is there any validity to this, Turd? To my claims?
To what? Do I have dead prostitutes in my basement?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, Bonnie? Do you think
just going to the source.
Do you think I have a bunch of dead, rotting corpses in my basement right now?
It's terrifying to hear you say that. Honestly, oh my god. Okay, thank you for the call. It's getting a little too. See, like, where did all those details come from?
Oh my god.
It's Free Talk Live, and anyone can call in. So we're gonna go to Ricky from the Commonwealth of also Pennsylvania. Ricky, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Thank you there, Miss Bonnie. Sister Nikki. Sister Lori, pleasure to meet your acquaintance.
Hi.
Well, I have to admit, I sit in here and I hear this guy, and I do remember when he made this original comment. Now, first of all, what he's saying goes against everything that the people of the Commonwealth represent. And I also want to know, since when is any form of torture an effective means of interrogation to get any kind of viable information?
I don't know. That's actually a good point, because you think, if I was being tortured, I'd probably just say whatever to make it stop, right?
Right.
So
I would not. I'd be like, you're probably going to kill me, so I'm not going to tell you anything.
Well, like my point is, so if someone's torturing you, it seems like there's a specific answer that they want, right? So if you give them the wrong answer, even if it's the truth, they're going to keep torturing you. You know what I mean? Or you could lie to them and they could buy it, so it seems like it doesn't seem like a very reliable source of collecting information.
If somebody's hurting me, I know that they have bad intentions, and so I'm going to assume that they're going to kill me afterwards, no matter if I tell them the truth or not. So I'm just going to let them kill me. I'm not going to tell them anything.
This right here from 2009 says, from science.org, says, torture can't provide good information. I guess it just says, argues neuroscientist. So it's just one guy is saying that.
But I mean, like, even take it to like a smaller example, like not like military-led torture, but like if you're like spanking a child or beating a child and you're looking for them to say something to you or admit to their crimes or whatever, like who colored on the wall with crayon, and even if they didn't do it, if you're beating them, they might just say, fine, it was me, even if they didn't do it, just because they want it to stop. So, I mean, that could also be used in a case with torturing an adult to get information on this alleged cyber terrorist group. You know what I mean? It just, it doesn't seem like a good idea.
All I'm going to say is first of all, I'm ashamed that this person is a member of the Commonwealth, the same as myself. And I'd like to apologize on behalf of all the members of the Commonwealth that an individual here makes such a comment and says he's misrepresented. Well, you know what he said, I remember what he said. He repeated it again, and it's the most horrible thing I ever said. And probably one of the most famous examples of torture where this is the case, where it's ineffective, was the Knights Templar. after they got, captured by King what's-his-name. Now, what happened is they were tortured. Now, it's said that they admitted to ludicrous things. Now, remember, these are men that would not retreat unless it's 3 against 1 in battle.
Who
But
were
did
they?
admit to certain things?
Who
They
was
may
it
have.
that the Knights Templar captured?
I forget the king's name at the time, but
Oh.
he was in with the Pope at the time, and they were captured, including their leader, and they were tortured. And now it's said that they admitted to ludicrous things, and I don't think some things I'm not even going to mention on the radio. And the fact of the matter is, they may have, but under the form of torture. And sure enough, they were burned at the stake.
Another thing is the guy who Dracula is based off. I can't remember his name right now, but
Vlad the Impaler.
yes, the Impaler guy. Well, as a teenager or at least a young man, he was given by his dad over to his dad's enemies because they were like, "We'll kill you, or you can give us your sons." So he got
Gosh.
given over to some enemies, and he was tortured and assaulted as a child, and he grew up to be Vlad the freaking Impaler. Like, obviously,
I
he's
didn't know
been
about that, but
psychologically really messed up.
yeah, and that's the thing. Even if it's not like, it doesn't have to be like super violent torture, but even like waterboarding somebody like that, that's still like, I mean, you're being held against your will. Something is being done to you against your will. Like, that is going to cause some level of psychological trauma that is gonna probably last the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
one
Like,
other Well, one other thing is a recent memory version was, remember, I'm probably going to brutalize this, the Abu Ghraib prison, if you remember that. And there was all forms of torture,
Yeah.
including using dogs. And those people were proven that they were innocent. I mean, there's no people did anything here.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's another reason why, like, the examples of this thing inside of a vacuum, and, you know, you absolutely know the truth, and you, like, absolutely 100% know that this person did it. That's not the way reality works. You know, you might think that you absolutely, without a doubt,
You're
know
in a
that this
chat room,
person's
Nikki.
guilty.
They said it, Nikki, in a chat room.
Yeah, it's just, I don't, like, I get, you know, in these made up scenarios, you can decide whatever reality is, but it just doesn't seem productive to me. I don't know. And
Well,
I'm not interested in torturing people for information either, so.
And it's
you
just
gotta
like,
think about. You got to think about and figure now. The person who was just on the phone call, Mr. Ferguson, what is his version of reality? He is
That's what
thinking
I'm
about
saying.
torturing people.
That's what I'm telling
I mean,
you.
Really?
the other thing about it is, just saying the words like, listen, Nikki, you just got to torture someone and then a million people will be saved. It's like, you're not even fully conceptualizing what you would be
exactly
doing.
right. So it's like
stabbing them or what?
It would be easy to be like, oh, okay. Like, it's like the
Yes or no,
the
hurry.
train car thing. It's like, okay, well, you pull this lever and it kills one person, but if you don't pull the lever, it's gonna kill 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
In those situations, it's like, it's easy to be like, oh, right, it's better to only kill one person. And then they're like, psych, that person was gonna cure cancer or something
my
like
God.
that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not God and I don't really want to play God.
That's why I wouldn't pull the lever at all. Like I
Like, yeah,
I
like,
leave it where
why-
it was.
who put
I
me in this
didn't tie
situation?
a person on the rails. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I mean, if it was like my mom, it's like, yeah, I'll probably, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'll kill 5 people to save my mom, I
Yeah,
guess,
that's
if that's
different.
the situation. But it's like, I also don't really see me ever being put in that situation. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
exactly.
you know, and yeah, so.
Another thing that doesn't really get to anything really moral, you know?
Yeah.
Is that all you had for us, Ricky?
No, I just wanted to say it's, I mentioned about it on Sunday, and it's good to see Wednesday being girls' night again.
Well, thank you for the call.
Every other week?
Ricky. Yep. I think it's nice that we have 3 women, not just one, on Free Talk Live at times, because I didn't think about it. Was it Ricky that called in and said that? He said...
Someone did, yeah. This is probably the only radio show that has, like, a female host.
Well, there are definitely at least some that have a female host, but 3 is just unheard of because
Yeah.
talk radio is so, like, just a bunch of men. So I hadn't really
Yeah.
thought about that, really. Like, apparently David from New Mexico was saying, maybe he was saying this on Thursday, I don't remember, that there's some lady that broadcasts in southern Utah that took over one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
one of our spots in Arizona or something
Yeah, he
like
was
that.
not a fan of her.
And he said that he's going to call them and say that he likes my voice more.
Yeah.
Even though he always makes fun of my voice. And I didn't know that it was a compliment, I guess. Well, Lori, you brought in a story. I thought it would be a good one for us to talk about tonight because me, you, and Nikki are all interested in, not eating like a whole bunch of crap. Like some people don't seem to care at all. Like most people seem to not care at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like
no, people love crap.
I definitely don't eat like perfectly. Don't claim to. There are some things that I'd probably eat that y'all wouldn't eat, or y'all would eat that I wouldn't eat. I don't know. And Off Grid Angie on Sundays is another female host that we have, and she seems to be stricter than anyone I know. And but what am I trying to say about it? But most people just don't care. They're like, whatever you put in front of me, I'll eat it if it tastes good.
I think it's good to have some, like, to be thinking about it. You know what I mean?
I think it's bad to stress about it, but
yeah.
And that's what I've been thinking about a lot recently is like, I just don't want to stress about this. Stress is also bad for you.
I think a lot of people aren't even conscious of
exactly
what is in food. Me and Stu were talking the other night about how salt, sugars and everything. And you know what I found out is in iodized salt, there's dextrose. There's sugar in your salt.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and the iodine doesn't even really get in your body because most of it evaporates after processing. Like it's getting shipped, it's evaporating out of the boxes.
Yeah,
And
you need to eat seaweed and fish.
Yeah.
I just put the Lugor's
See, and that's
iodine
why.
on there.
So that wouldn't be the case with there's no dextrose in like sea salt, right?
No.
Okay.
But an iodized salt. There's
Okay.
dextrose.
See,
It's-
I
it's
knew
like a
I didn't like
binding agent.
iodized salt for a reason.
Yeah. And they
I
don't say
wasn't-
it on there either.
No. Yeah.
They just say salt.
I was like kosher salt. Does it have it? Because that is so good.
I found out because I was going to tan some hides.
Yeah.
And I was like, why can't you use iodized salt? Because you can't. It doesn't work. But there's additives in the salts. In like
That's
table
not
salts and stuff.
listed.
Yeah, it's not listed.
Oh my gosh. See, and this is why I'm paranoid because people are like, well, it's good enough. Like why a lot of people are like questioning why I'm so like crazy about my diet. And it's like, one, I feel better this way. And like, I can see significant changes in my like physical appearance, mental health, whatever. But this is very common where they'll just lie to you or
I know.
You know what I mean?
Or
So
it's like very shady. Like there's not going to be ingredients on the back of your salt.
There is. It says salt. It just says salt.
Yeah,
Wow,
but that's
messed
the
up.
thing. Like, so it's like there's other ingredients that they're not telling you about, or there's, processing methods and practices.
Well, it does look like we have another caller, so I'm going to go to the unscreened caller. What's on your mind?
No, it's not an unscreened caller. It's Gigi from Charleston.
Hey, Gigi.
Hey, Gigi. Sorry, I didn't recognize the number.
We got a new phone number, so nobody in the studio recognized it.
Yep. Well, what's on your mind today, Gigi?
Pardon me for clearing my throat. I hope everybody is warm and safe driving. We see on the news that New Hampshire is just in a wretched blizzard.
It was 50 degrees today.
It was so weird because there was a crazy blizzard, so much
50
snow.
degrees is very tolerable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it all warmed up and rained on it, and it's like living inside a 7-Eleven slushie.
Oh my
whatever
gosh,
they call
I
it.
love those as a kid.
Yeah, me too. I think I called it the wrong thing, Slurpee, but yeah, that's what it...
Slurpees, slushies, ices, they're all the same. They're all delicious. Or frozen lemonade.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, my husband and I are happy to report we received 3 letters from Ian.
Wow, you guys are really writing a lot of letters to each other.
I try to write him a letter per week.
Oh,
I
thank you,
know
Gigi.
personally what it's like to have someone very close to you. Hello?
Oh, the bumper music just started, so if you want to hold on, then we'll bring you into the next break. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible, and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their Chainlocks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. Former New Jersey Governor, Republican Chris Christie, is ending his bid for the White House. He made the decision to drop out just days before the first state vote in Iowa. FSN's U.S. correspondent Nick Harper reports.
Chris Christie's 2024 White House run was always a long shot, but suspending his campaign now has come as a surprise, with the expectation that he would at least try to get through the start of primary season, with the Iowa caucuses next week and the New Hampshire primaries the week after. Christie has tried to sell himself as an alternative to frontrunner Donald Trump, but he's been forced to tell supporters it's now clear there is no path for him to win the Republican Party nomination. Throughout, he's struggled to gain ground in the polls, trailing significantly behind Trump and the two candidates vying for second place, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Hunter Biden surprised members of Congress on Wednesday, appearing at a meeting calling for him to be held in contempt for not testifying at an impeachment inquiry. The president's son had agreed to appear publicly, but not behind closed doors. FSN's Caroline Malone reports.
Hunter Biden unexpectedly turned up to a House hearing on holding him in contempt with his two lawyers. He listened to proceedings in which Republicans and Democrats argued about whether he should be allowed to testify. He wasn't and left after about 20 minutes. The House Oversight and Judiciary Committees had wanted to hear from Hunter Biden in person at a private session to question him as part of their impeachment inquiry into his father, President Joe Biden. Caroline Malone, Washington.
A helicopter contracted by the United Nations has been captured by al-Shabaab in Somalia. 6 of the 9 people reportedly aboard were taken captive by the terrorist group. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York, where the UN is headquartered.
According to the New York Times, 2 people on board the helicopter managed to escape, while 1 person was killed. A spokesperson for the United Nations Secretary-General says a response effort is underway, but wouldn't be drawn on details for the safety of those that were aboard the helicopter. The helicopter, linked to the UN support office in Somalia, was reportedly captured after it made an emergency landing in territory controlled by al-Shabaab. The UN office provides support for an African Union-led peacekeeping mission on the ground.
The company OpenAI has launched a new marketplace where users can buy and sell custom artificial intelligence chatbots. The ChatGPT creator will make the new GPT store available to premium subscribers. And in U.S. markets, the Dow was up 0.5%, the S&P 500 rose 0.6%, and the Nasdaq was up 0.8%. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is...
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number for you to call in and bring up whatever's on your mind. That's 603-283-6160. And I want to tell you about the AMPS program. That's AMPS. And I would like to thank Chef Angry, which is a pretty funny name. Chef Angry, thank you for being a silver level amplifier. If you don't know what that means, AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. And that means that you're helping Free Talk Live be on as many radio stations we can be on and just stay on the air in general. And thank you so much to Chef Angry. If you'd like to learn more, you can go to amps.freetalklive.com. That's amps.freetalklive.com. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori,
and Nikki.
And it looks like we have a caller here who called 603-283-6160. Perry in California, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to be on.
Thank you for calling.
This is Perry. Yeah, what I wanted to say is, first of all, we're lucky. We're all lucky to be in America, to be in the greatest country in the world. Secondly, I believe that the smartest people in America are supporting Trump. They're focusing on Trump. And I think that's the right thing to do at this point.
I don't think focusing on a politician is very smart.
No, pardon me?
I just don't think focusing on a politician is a very smart thing to do. What do they do for you?
I think Trump is looking out for us. That's my opinion. I voted for him twice. I'm going to vote for him again for a third time. If they don't shoot him, I think he's going to be president. But here's the thing, and that's of course if they get the fraud down enough. But here's the thing, Vivek is good. Christie, he just wanted to give billions to Ukraine. He was worthless anyway. All he did was complain about Trump. He didn't do anything for
yeah, apparently he's out today.
I'm glad he stepped out. And what's her name? Nikki Haley. She's worthless. The other, she wants to give billions again to Ukraine, like we've got it sitting in the bank. Of course, we it's not that we don't go out and borrow trillions every day. The other thing is that the other day Michelle Obama was saying that she's scared because Trump might get it. I'm scared if her and Newsom or somebody gets in, the governor of California, we're gonna. They like the same policies that Biden likes. We're going to be in we're going to be America. You won't be able to recognize this country anymore if we go in that direction with the Democrats. Now both parties are corrupt. Don't get me wrong, but the Democrats are evil. They're 100%. They belong in a straitjacket. They're completely off the wall when it comes to politics. They're doing everything wrong. Everything.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Republicans, though, right?
Well, yeah, no. Some of the Republicans, you're right. They're called rhinos. They're worthless. They're not doing.
But even like the ultra-conservative ones too, like Mitch McConnell.
They're going to lower taxes, or
in his opinion,
they're going to have smaller government, or they're not going to stick their nose in our business, and they see all these things. You're right.
It's a terrible thing.
But they don't do what they say. I understand what you're saying.
But even sometimes the things that they say they're going to do that they do are bad. Republicans and Democrats, because they're people who are claiming to have authority over our lives, and they don't.
Well, that's why they got a name Republicans, because they're both they're both together.
Yeah, to me
they're not looking out. They don't care about you and me, and they don't care about America. But once
right, like all politicians are like that. They're all the uniparty. They're the same thing to me.
I just don't get how Donald Trump is gonna save us.
I don't think he is. Thank you for the call, Perry. Donald Trump has never done anything for me.
It's all just fake anyway.
Yeah, like I feel like the same stuff was happening when Trump was in office as like now that Biden's in office.
Yeah,
anyone you know what I mean? That doesn't think they all have the same motive in the end is fooled.
Yeah, fooled. Yeah. Right. That's the perfect word
honestly,
for it.
I'm to the point where I don't think that the president has any power at all.
No.
You think Joe Biden is making decisions?
Even if
he doesn't even choose his clothes in the morning, you know what I mean?
Even if any president does have power, well, it's not any different than the person who lost to him. They'd be doing the same thing. That's what I think.
I don't know. It would be exactly the same, just with a different face and
maybe a different style. Yeah,
I'm
trying to make it sound like they're doing something a slight bit different.
And it's all so silly. Like I saw somebody about Nikki Haley saying that, it would be so life-changing. It was an ad that popped up. It would be so life-changing to have a woman president. Like,
oh my God.
Why do you even care?
Would it be life-changing?
Why does anyone care what gender
The president
is.
Yeah.
Why does that make any difference?
Yeah.
Because you are so small-minded, you can only relate to a person that's just like you?
It's just, yeah, it's strange. I don't know if someone is like beating me and robbing me.
Right,
I don't care if they're. It doesn't make it feel better that she's a woman.
Thank God she's a woman.
And and
go
who cares
her.
anyway?
Yeah, right.
It doesn't make any sense.
You go, girl.
Right.
And it's just like, so that was the thing with Hillary Clinton, right?
Yeah.
Like a
Right,
lot of
yeah.
people were just like hardcore. Like if you,
Right.
this
Who
is gonna sound
cares? She's
terrible.
a woman.
Yeah, but so that was the thing. Like that was the feminist thing to do. I knew so many lesbians that were like, "We hate men, Hillary Clinton."
I know
or,
so many just
I'm
like
with
regular
her.
girl. Well, okay, like straight like girls that went to my high school and stuff that would say stuff that sounded like basically what you're saying, just like,
I'm with her.
You have to support her if you're a girl. Like, what's wrong with you? And it's like, Hillary Clinton just defended a rapist in court and like ruined a little girl who was like almost raped to death's life.
Yeah, how is that for being a feminist?
Yeah. We were born the same gender. Amazing. So much in common.
So we're half of the people.
Right.
Oh my gosh, what is that? Like at least 5 billion people or whatever.
Right.
I mean, it's like, oh my gosh.
Well, before the last call, we were talking, well, actually before the last break, we were talking about a story that you brought in, Lori. Apparently, we have another thing to be grossed out about, our food supply. I think that they're trying to kill us. And what is that?
This is a story from oceanconservancy.org. So the headline is, "It's not just seafood. New study finds microplastics in nearly 90% of protein sampled, including plant-based meat alternatives."
Oh, wow. Good.
Yeah. It's awesome, right? Nothing's safe anymore.
But I'm glad, the vegans get some too, right?
Everyone.
Quality, yeah.
Everyone. It's in everything. It's in the water.
The water,
it's
yeah.
in-
I hadn't heard that specifically seafood had that. But now I feel a little better about eating seafood because it's like, oh, well, they all have it.
Well, yeah, there's the great garbage iceberg in the middle of the ocean.
Yes. Yeah.
So the
They're probably
ocean's
just
full of
eating
plastic.
or not flying.
Swimming
around with their mouth open.
Well, they
or
find
their gills.
that where like animals will wash up, like dead animals, like whales and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do an autopsy or cut them open or whatever, they'll be full of all sorts of trash.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's what killed them.
And just like pieces of plastic wash up on the beach.
Yeah.
Like it's no big deal all the time.
Yep.
So sad.
Yeah. Researchers at Ocean Conservancy and University of Toronto estimate that American adults could be consuming up to 3.8 million microplastics per year from protein alone. A new study by the researchers at the Ocean Conservancy and University of Toronto and published today in the Journal of Environmental Pollution found microplastic particles in 88% of protein samples tested. The samples were drawn from 16 different protein types destined for U.S. consumers, including seafood, pork, beef, chicken, tofu, and 3 different plant-based meat alternatives.
Wow,
So it just must be in the water.
Yeah, it's in the water. It's in everything.
Is protein specifically like the thing that holds on to the plastics in the animal's body? Or
No,
in the
it's in
substance?
everything. They just tested like protein sources. Like the things that they tested were proteins.
Yeah.
But
I just
I'm
don't know
sure
why.
like
The plants have it too.
I mean, if you cut vegetables on one of those like plastic cutting boards, you're going to get microplastics in your salad. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's
Because
in the water.
Yeah. So if you rinse off your vegetables or whatever,
It's
you know.
inside the vegetables. That's how the protein's getting it inside of them too.
Yeah.
Like the plant-based proteins, it's obviously coming from the plants. So
Yeah.
it's in the plants from the water that they're absorbing. It's coming from the rain. It's on everything.
Wow. So gross.
It is really gross. While scientists have long documented the presence of microplastics in the digestive tracts of commercial fish and shellfish like salmon, halibut, and oysters, there has been little research into whether these microplastics are entering the fillets of the fish, the parts that are actually eaten by people, and little research into terrestrial protein sources like beef and chicken that make up a large part of the American diet. In this study, microplastics were found in all 16 protein types tested, suggesting that humans are likely eating microplastics no matter the source of protein they choose. Furthermore, there were no statistical differences in microplastic concentrations between land and ocean-sourced proteins. So yeah, it's got to be the water.
Yep. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I Googled it just because I was shocked that oysters have a digestive system. They have a stomach and intestines and everything.
They're mostly stomach, aren't they? Like
I think that's all they are.
They're like a neck and a stomach.
Yeah.
Says the stomach looks like a chewed up piece of gum. If you keep following it down, it goes into a tube called the intestine. Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I just had never thought of that before. I was like,
yeah.
How
but
do
that's
they
why
eat?
like clam stomachs, like people don't like the clam bellies because they're full of sand.
Oh,
Yeah. 'Cause
clam belly,
all
that
they
makes so much
eat is,
sense.
all they eat is sand
Gross.
and microplastics
and plastic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sandy
apparently
plastic.
there's plastic in there too. That's really sad and gross.
This is a startling reminder of how prolific plastic pollution has become. Humans live on land, and yet seafood samples are just as likely to be contaminated with plastics as are terrestrial-derived proteins, said study co-author Dr. Britta Bachler, a marine biologist and associate director of plastic science at Ocean Conservancy. And there's no escaping them no matter what you eat, it seems. The plastic pollution crisis is impacting all of us, and we need to take action to address it in its many forms.
I mean, how though?
Yeah,
At
how?
this point,
Right.
Stop
you know what
using
I mean?
plastic. It's never going to go away,
But then
can
we have
stop
like
it from getting worse. I
other
guess.
countries with
Yeah.
billions of people who are never going to
Yeah.
stop, and they have
I
trash
mean,
on the ground.
personally,
I just
like-
don't know how we can stop it.
Yeah.
That's why.
I mean, I guess obviously like you have to eat food, so it's like you
Right.
can't, but for me personally, I am not a fan of plastic. Like everything I use, like all my like little Tupperware things, like that is all glass. The baby bottles I picked out are glass. Obviously, like the nipple part is silicone because you can't really make
glass.
glass nipple.
Yeah.
But I try to cut down plastic as much as I can. But even if you are buying Whole Foods from the grocery stores, it's packaged
And like,
in
how do you make your own
plastic
toilet
and-
paper?
Sometimes-
Toilet paper smells like chemicals.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you go buy a sweet potato, and the singular potato
That
is
drives
wrapped
me
in plastic.
nuts. And they always do that with the organic ones too. It's like, come on, guys, read the room. Like, clearly, people buying organic produce don't want a plastic wrapped sweet
It's
potato.
got its
but
own
it's just
wrapper.
a joke. Yeah, like it comes in a skin. Like, who cares? So it's pretty crazy. But going to the toilet paper, I found a like unbleached, non-toxic type of toilet paper that I use. It's kind of expensive, but I bought it in bulk, so it's not too bad. But they lured me in with an Instagram ad talking about like how bad bleached toilet paper is and how there's, they didn't specifically talk about microplastics, but they were talking about all of the chemicals on the toilet paper. And I was like, oh man.
Right. I wasn't
And then
talking
they
about
totally like hooked me in.
But I just think about it because like I've been blowing my nose a lot recently. I'll be in the bathroom, I have to blow my nose, so I use toilet paper.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, this just smells like chemicals, and that can't be good. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm not going to use something reusable. No, that's
Well,
gross.
there's plastic in everything too. They use it in everything, like soda cans. You wouldn't think, but there's
my God.
plastic inside. Like they line the can.
Yeah.
with
Or like the
plastics.
well, okay, I heard that about the cans that like canned food comes in, but I didn't hear that about soda cans.
I think so.
Yeah, I think everything, right? So
all cans.
what is it called?
So you're not bleaching the metal into your
the
whatever.
like forever
makes
chemicals that they talk about, that
PFAS.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that is lined with a lot of cans are
Everything.
lined with that. Receipt paper.
Oh,
You're
that
not
stuff
supposed to
is
touch
straight
receipts.
cancer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
What?
like it's like literally every single thing
The thermal
is going to
paper that
kill
they
you.
use.
And people, and I say that kind of jokingly, but like seriously, like all of these things are made up of legitimately toxic chemicals. And I point this out to people because why do you think there's such an influx in all of these different diseases and all of these specific cancers and all this stuff? It's because
People cooking on Teflon coated pans.
I mean, but you can't even get away from it. It's like in our clothes, and it's
Yep.
and it's like you can be as mindful as possible, but to a certain extent, it's like, I'm sorry, I can't afford to replace my entire wardrobe with like organic, non-bleached, 100% cotton that was spun by this Amish woman. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like
It's
I
true.
I physically cannot. You can't get away from it. 5G towers.
Yeah.
There's, toxins in the air. Like you
Yep.
can't get away from this stuff. And that goes back to like the stress where it's like, I kind of switched gears where I'm like, I'm going to control the things that I can control, but I'm not going to fixate on it. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to get all like super hyper doom and gloom about it because that stress is worse for me than receipt paper.
Right.
That's
You know what
exactly
I
how I
mean?
feel. And
Yeah.
honestly, I think that the whole point is to lower your vibration so you're unproductive, you're not putting
Yeah.
good out into the world. Like that's actually what I think the government and the people who control us want. And it sounds crazy as someone who's never looked into anything. Well, maybe you should look into some things. Like, have you ever read about any of this stuff we're talking about before you like judge it as if it's just crazy? I think that they want to lower your vibration in a way to where you're just living unconsciously because you feel like crap. But the only way to counteract that, well, obviously, take the measures you can. And I've taken so many more measures than most people I know, and still, like, I find out there's plastic in the can I didn't know about. Things like that happen basically every single day.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to just, like, start buying a new toilet paper when I can get it from the store.
Exactly, yeah.
So all I'm trying to say is I think the most important thing is to keep yourself vibrating high in general, meditating, stuff like that, because ultimately that's going to help your immune system and your quality of life. And there are people who smoke cigarettes and they live for a long, long time. There are people who, they live what you would consider really unhealthy lives and they live for a long time. But either way, you can't take your health with you. Like, we're all going to die. So
I think being constantly super vigilant about everything that you're doing in life is unhealthy also.
It's almost like a mental illness, right? It's like it's like hyper anxiety. And I think I like what Bonnie said about the immune system, because there are constantly going to be factors that we cannot control. So you can do your best, but I think focusing on, like you said, like raising your vibration, doing like healthy mindfulness practices, like keeping your mental health in check and doing positive things for your immune system. I think that's so important, because you can't get away from the toxins. You can't get away from the microplastics.
Right.
Clearly, you can't even if you're a vegetarian, it's in the tofu.
Yeah.
It's in the water you're drinking.
Grow your own food. It's in the rain.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's in the rain.
So, I mean, you can try your best, but I think kind of, doing your best, and then also focusing on building that immune system, and also just like, I think a huge part of the immune system is the mental aspect of it.
It is.
And you know what I mean? Like, I never get sick ever. And I always say it's because I've made a decision that I don't get sick. You know what I mean? It's like mind over matter. And I remember my mom told me that when I was a little kid. And I was like, oh, shoot, I should try that. And so far, I mean, I cannot remember the last time I've gotten sick legitimately, because I've just decided, and I mean, you know what? I could get sick tomorrow, like really badly. Who knows? But I've kind of just made that decision. Like, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's crap, or maybe I'm onto something. Who knows?
I definitely, well, we read the article last week about the opposite is definitely true. So people who are extremely worried about getting sick will be more likely to get sick.
Mm-hmm. Well, because stress lowers your immune system.
Mm-hmm.
So even not just worrying about getting sick, but like just being stressed out in general.
Yeah.
Where it lowers your immune system.
And also, like,
sleeping enough, and
people are manifesting that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you look around and all you see is like cancer, like all of this is going to give me cancer. I mean, you are literally like asking the universe to send that your way.
If you live long enough, you're going to get cancer anyway.
I wonder if those...
It's just cell mutations.
I forget what they call it, but the pictures on cigarettes and everything in California that says like, oh, this is going to get you cancer. I wonder if that's
Prop
just...
65 warnings.
That's what it is. I wonder if it's a psychological attack, like to make everybody freaked out. Because like plenty of people smoke cigarettes and don't get cancer. Plenty of people...
but that's...
I don't know what else they have it on.
I don't know, but it's an immune system thing, right? Because like Lori said, cancer is a mutation of your cell, but which happens all the time.
Constantly.
But our immune systems, there's a special type of white blood cell in our immune system that take care of that. And it's like, oh, that's not, we don't want that to happen.
Get rid of it.
So so they, apoptosis, whatever, take care of it. But if your immune system isn't functioning or has a lapse, breach in security, that's when it starts rapidly expanding, and then it infects like the surrounding cells, and that's when you get the cancer that people think of that are like, it's detectable cancer.
Yeah. Babies get cancer. People who don't smoke get lung cancer.
Yeah.
If you, like I said, if you live long enough, you're probably going to die of cancer. It's just something that's going to happen. So living your whole life worried about every single choice you make because you might get cancer is silly. You're going to probably get it anyway.
And even if you don't get cancer, you're going to die anyway.
Of something.
Yeah.
Of something. Yeah, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You could fall in the bathtub and die.
Yeah.
I just think we have all gotten to the point where we have looked into this stuff, probably worried about it a bit, and then gotten to the other side of the bell curve, where we're not the absolute dumbest, not paying attention at all, completely unconscious of what's going in our bodies, but we're not I'm a little bit conscious and now I'm freaked out. Now we're on the other side of the bell curve. But I still think that the people listening should, if they are completely unfamiliar, if they don't know, like, what is going on, they should look into, just simply look into the government lying about trans fats, or look into the government lying about the food pyramid, and you'll go down a rabbit hole and you'll find out that the things that your hospital and your doctor tells you is healthy is actually killing you.
Yeah. I mean, we recommend this book a lot on this show, but the book Deep Nutrition is such a good read. Like, I think everyone should read that book. Seriously. Because a lot of the food that they're telling you is unhealthy is actually healthy, like bacon, high-fat food. And a lot of people will be so happy to know that some of their favorite foods, like you can eat a hamburger without it being, I'm sure like a tofu stir fry is more unhealthy than a hamburger.
Yeah, seriously,
right?
because
So
that's made
it's
of just a bunch of soy, whereas a burger is made of beef. Like if you don't go get it at a restaurant where they're cooking it in like canola oil for some reason, just cook it at your house, buy it from a local farm, then it's going to be much better for you.
I try my best to only eat things that would be available to a human being naturally.
Yeah.
Like, I'll eat cake. I can source flour.
Yeah.
I can source sugars. I can source eggs, all of those things.
But can you source Red 40?
Right. I'm not going to eat a Red 40 cake.
And that's one thing that does worry about me about natural flavors. But I kind of have a few things that I have to drink with natural flavors because I can't drink nothing but water. Like, I just can't. Like, I love Topo Chico, but I also got to switch it up from there, too. Natural flavors are probably, like, one of the worst things I ingest because it's like you're saying, what the heck is it? One, they don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
And two, could a person encounter this fake raspberry flavor in nature? Probably not.
I think it was vanilla. Is vanilla castorum?
Oh, yeah, it's from the beaver
anal glands.
Oh, that one, for in Dr. Pepper.
So and there's some that are made from like bugs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but that's in nature.
Yeah, I mean,
humans could have eaten that.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not poison, so.
Well, a lot of stuff I feel like it's like, it seems like it would be in nature, but is it really? Because like the stuff that is made of beetle shells that's in M&Ms, yeah, it's a beetle shell, but it's like tons and tons of beetle shells. Well, I don't know if that's a good example, but like essential oils and stuff. Like, are you going to encounter a ton of rose petals in nature that were condensed and then made into an oil? Probably not.
You shouldn't be eating essential oils, though.
Oh, yeah. One time, my aunt gave me essential oils in a pill, and it cured me that day. But now I think back, and I'm like, was that like placebo effect? Or like, I have no clue.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know, yeah.
I would be totally happy if it was.
There's a lot of like controversy over essential oils.
But now it scares me.
I think there's a time and a place. But
I think it's probably better than some things.
A lot of them are really toxic if you ingest them orally.
And really toxic to dogs, so I just don't use them at all. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. You can call in and talk about whatever's on your mind.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio is great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. Former New Jersey Governor, Republican Chris Christie, is ending his bid for the White House. He made the decision to drop out just days before the first state vote in Iowa. FSN's U.S. correspondent Nick Harper reports.
Chris Christie's 2024 White House run was always a long shot, but suspending his campaign now has come as a surprise, with the expectation that he would at least try to get through the start of primary season, with the Iowa caucuses next week and the New Hampshire primaries the week after. Christie has tried to sell himself as an alternative to frontrunner Donald Trump, but he's been forced to tell supporters it's now clear there is no path for him to win the Republican Party nomination. Throughout, he's struggled to gain ground in the polls, trailing significantly behind Trump and the two candidates vying for second place, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Hunter Biden surprised members of Congress on Wednesday, appearing at a meeting calling for him to be held in contempt for not testifying at an impeachment inquiry. The president's son had agreed to appear publicly, but not behind closed doors. FSN's Caroline Malone reports.
Hunter Biden unexpectedly turned up to a House hearing on holding him in contempt with his two lawyers. He listened to proceedings in which Republicans and Democrats argued about whether he should be allowed to testify. He wasn't and left after about 20 minutes. The House Oversight and Judiciary Committees had wanted to hear from Hunter Biden in person at a private session to question him as part of their impeachment inquiry into his father, President Joe Biden. Caroline Malone, Washington.
A helicopter contracted by the United Nations has been captured by al-Shabaab in Somalia. 6 of the 9 people reportedly aboard were taken captive by the terrorist group. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York, where the UN is headquartered.
According to the New York Times, 2 people on board the helicopter managed to escape, while 1 person was killed. A spokesperson for the United Nations Secretary-General says a response effort is underway, but wouldn't be drawn on details for the safety of those that were aboard the helicopter. The helicopter, linked to the UN support office in Somalia, was reportedly captured after it made an emergency landing in territory controlled by al-Shabaab. The UN office provides support for an African Union-led peacekeeping mission on the ground.
The company OpenAI has launched a new marketplace where users can buy and sell custom artificial intelligence chatbots. The ChatGPT creator will make the new GPT store available to premium subscribers. And in U.S. markets, the Dow was up 0.5%, the S&P 500 rose 0.6%, and the Nasdaq was up 0.8%. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the moment an appeals court judge in Washington appeared to eviscerate a substantial part of the arguments advanced by Donald Trump's lawyers. They say their client enjoys blanket immunity from prosecution for any actions he took when he served in the presidency. It came during Tuesday's hearing at which the former president was trying to avoid federal prosecution for allegedly attempting to subvert the outcome of the 2020 election. Judge Florence Pan, questioning Trump attorney D. John Sauer, appeared unmoved by the former president's case.
Your position is, if a president is impeached and convicted by Congress, then he is subject to criminal prosecution, correct?
That would be a necessary prosecution.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. So therefore, he's not completely and absolutely immune, because under the procedure that you concede, he can be prosecuted if there's an impeachment and conviction by the Senate. But doesn't that narrow the issues before us? All of your other arguments seem to fall away if you concede that a president can be criminally prosecuted under some circumstances.
Supporters of Donald Trump dismiss Judge Pan as a Biden appointee. They say she is part of ongoing efforts by the White House to interfere in the next presidential election. She is one of 3 judges on the panel who will determine the outcome of Trump's appeal. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. Former New Jersey Governor Republican Chris Christie ends his bid for the White House, dropping out just days before the first state vote in Iowa. Hunter Biden surprises members of Congress by appearing at a meeting calling for him to be held in contempt for not testifying at an impeachment inquiry. And a helicopter contracted by the United Nations is captured by the terrorist group Al-Shabaab in Somalia. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer.
From Betty Davis's first role as a piece of chocolate cake in the 1931 film Palmy Days to the discovery of Niagara Falls in 1996, The Onion looks back at this week in history. On May 16, 1929, the first Academy Awards were handed out in categories such as Greatest Achievement in Blackface, Best Catholic Whipping Scene, and Most Gorgeous Gams on a Broad. The highlight of the night occurred when Wings won the award for Best Picture without a single Dago, Tar Baby, or Wetback. And on May 15th, 1940, the first McDonald's opened in San Bernardino, California, back when a young Grimace was just working as a cashier. And that was what happened this week in history. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, history is actually pretty racist.
This is the Onion News Network.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. You can call in with whatever's on your mind. It's Free Talk Live, and with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori, and Nikki.
And we have some more from this article. We were talking about how basically the government in cahoots with the corporations, because we have crony capitalism, is trying to kill us with the food supply and all the toxins everywhere. And Lori has a story about that.
So back to the story from oceanconservancy.org. It goes on to say, the study found evidence that food processing is a likely source of microplastic contamination, as highly processed protein products like fish sticks, chicken nuggets, tofu, and plant-based burgers, among others, contained significantly more microplastics per gram than minimally processed products, items like packaged wild Alaska pollock, raw chicken breast, and others.
That's kind of good to know, at least. Like, if you're not eating freaking fish sticks, which you shouldn't, then it's going to be a bit better than a whole fish.
Yeah. However, no statistical difference was found between high processed products and fresh cut products, suggesting that food processing is not the only source of microplastic contamination and opening avenues for further research.
Now I'm confused. Wait, how could there be no difference?
Yeah.
That made no sense. But if they were freshly caught, I don't really get that.
It says that they have more in the processed foods, but there's no statistical difference in the amount.
Some science study talk that maybe is going over my head.
That's strange. It's tempting to want to draw conclusions like eat less of this and more of that to avoid microplastics in your diet, but right now we still know very little about the microplastic burdens in commonly consumed foods. Our study adds to this knowledge, but also demonstrates the need for further research to better understand the bigger picture, including where the microplastics are coming from and the potential human health risks, said primary co-author Madeline Milne.
I think it's obvious where it's coming from.
Yeah.
The plastic, we're
plastic.
throwing the stuff away.
Yeah.
It's in the ocean.
Were people's masks made of plastic at all? Like those?
Yeah.
Those
For
white
sure,
ones?
they were like microfibers, basically. Because I remember, I could feel it in my nose when I would wear them.
I hated that, but I didn't know if it was plastic.
But there was, I forget, I don't know what type of research was done. Somebody did some sort of like science experiment thing with the mask where I think they got them wet. I forget what they did, but they showed that there were like plastic particles that were coming off of the masks that people were like inhaling from wearing them.
I mean, they're in people's clothing, like polyester and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're wearing that and rubbing it on your skin, and the fibers are coming off. You're breathing in those fibers and the dust and all that stuff.
Oh,
It's on everything.
My sister was telling me that every air fryer basically puts microplastics into your food.
Probably.
Because they don't make
Well-
like just fully metal ones.
Well, there's that, but also they all have like the Teflon. You know what I mean? Like, the non-stick.
I'm glad I never
Most of
hopped on
them
that
are.
trend. Like, I don't know.
If you go to a restaurant, a lot of them are probably using some type of
They're probably
Teflon
putting
something.
stuff in the
Oh
microwave.
no, I just meant
Like-
the trend of air fryers. Like,
Oh,
you have
air
an air
fryers,
fryer.
yeah.
Nope, I just never had one. I
Yeah,
know I
I
have
don't have one either.
I have an oven, a toaster
Yeah.
oven, and that's like the best thing. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I do still use a microwave, but I'm not completely sold on. Like, I know Nikki is. Like,
Yeah, I'm very anti-microwave.
Yeah, I don't have one either.
I
I just think the
don't
food
use
doesn't
it for,
taste
like-
very good.
Right, I
Yeah.
just don't use it for food. I'll use it to heat up my coffee. I can't think of another
I mean,
example.
but there is like there are times where like especially like at work, occasionally I'd use it because it got to the point where it was like it would be so much easier for me to heat this up in the microwave. So,
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't need to be in my house, but
I have a
don't know.
radio studio in my house.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just put organite places.
Yeah,
I hope
that's
it
true.
works. But was that all from that study?
There's a little bit more. Notably, across all samples, nearly half, 44% of the identified microplastics were fibers, which is consistent with other studies suggesting these fibers are the most prevalent form of microplastics in the environment. About a third of microplastics, 30%, were plastic fragments.
I wonder if it's like coming off clothes, like polyester is kind of
Yeah.
plastic, or
Yeah, I'm
like
wondering
what you're
Spandex.
saying.
what is the
latex.
difference between like the fibers and a different kind of microplastic. You know what I mean?
Just
the shape, I don't know.
maybe like the source, like textile fibers, and then plastics, like packaging and stuff like that.
I could see that like a polyester shirt would be more degradable than like a plastic Tupperware, for example.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess
it's
that
easier to
kinda
get
makes
little
sense.
pieces.
Yeah, that's
into
probably
the
why
fish.
there's more. Yeah, and like, you dry your clothes and wash them, and that stuff's getting rinsed down the drain.
That's true, yeah.
The other thing I think about is vapes. Like they're little plastic machines, and they heat up, and steam comes out of it and goes into your lungs
Yeah, and people are just breathing that in.
with whatever else is in
Yeah.
them.
I was about to say, I'm like, that's probably the least of their concerns if
Yeah.
they're vaping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really it. It just went on to say a lot of the same things again later on in the article, but
Yep, they're trying to kill us. But also, don't worry about it. That's
No.
that's our.
Don't worry too much about it. Be aware
Yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
but don't worry yourself silly.
It needs to be like a healthy balance. And I do feel like most people kind of can. It's not very common that people stress about their diet to the extent that, like, say I would. So I think people probably wouldn't have like a really hard time getting too far in that direction, if you know what I mean.
I only
I
know
think there's a lot of subconscious stressing about things in American culture, and that's why everybody's anxious and depressed and miserable.
Probably.
the main problem I hear about with people stressing about their diet is one type is just like a utterly I guess hypochondriac. Oh, everything makes me sick. Like, okay, everything seems to make this person sick and they don't eat it. Or body dysmorphia, whatever it is, eating
Yeah.
disorder. Like
Yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah.
stressing out about their diet because they like think they're too fat. or
Yeah,
too
it's not
skinny or
really the
something.
ingredients. It's more like either calories or.
Mhm.
But I don't know if you've ever noticed like a lot of the people who are like, everything makes me sick. I can only eat like these things, the things that they pick are always really unhealthy. Like, it's never like, oh, I can only eat like
I'm really
Whole
picky.
Foods, or I can only eat like meat. Because I mean, that's kind of how I am. I have a very restrictive diet, but it's like it's a very conscious things for like health reasons. And it's like, no, I don't eat refined sugar and wheat because like I've noticed a substantial change in my body. And like, listen, I will, if I needed to eat a piece of bread to like save myself from starving, like I would, you know, I might eat a piece of candy with some cane sugar in it every once in a while. Like, I'm not like super crazy strict about it, but I find like in the other direction, a lot of people that are like, no, I can't. If I eat that, it'll make me sick. It's always like vegetables, or you know what I mean? It's
they don't want to eat them, and they've come up with some kind of reason.
Exactly. And like, I mean, it could be like they're like super, super bought into it. And like I've said earlier, the mind is a powerful thing. If you convince yourself, if you eat a fresh fruit or vegetable, that it's going to make you sick.
Okay, but wait. If you're because like, fresh vegetables do make me sick, because you're not supposed to eat that. You're supposed to eat it like cooked a lot, you know? Like, I used to just eat broccoli. I can't, because it's like,
I mean, I think that's because broccoli's super cruciferous, and like you're eating oxalates and
but like
getting gas.
That's
and all of that.
what it is. It's
but certain vegetables, I think certain nutrients do need to be cooked to get breaks down and to be like bioavailable. But I think like eating fresh cucumbers and fresh carrots, I think that would be.
Yeah.
I don't think like every single one. I know people who are like, I cannot eat anything that is not
like a vegetable. They can't eat any vegetables, and it's really because
they're like, I can eat a vegetable, but it has to be like drenched in butter and like all of these artificial flavorings.
Yeah, 'cause they don't want it.
And it's like, it's totally cool to admit that like you don't want to eat broccoli. Like, you're an adult, you don't need to eat broccoli.
Right.
Like, who cares? You know,
even
what
if
I mean?
you're a kid, you don't have to eat broccoli.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. Who cares? You don't like it.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately, I do like it.
But I do think that like some people are like, they've convinced themselves so much that they have physical symptoms,
Or maybe they're eating so much crap that's going through their body so slimy and gross easily, then they eat some roughage and their body can't handle it.
Maybe.
And it's like, oh no, I don't know how to digest this.
But like,
That's
I know
such a
a
good
lot of
point.
people like that. And it's like,
I think that's why a lot of people that have parents with really nice teeth end up having bad teeth, because like I just noticed this sort of thing.
Really?
It's because they're eating what you're saying, like just a bunch of sludge.
Yeah.
So they're not chewing.
Oh.
And I noticed today, and almost said something to him, but I don't know, I just didn't. Jay Noon's kids have really nice teeth, and they like to chew on bones.
Yeah.
They're like, they fight over chewing on bones.
Yeah.
Like, I want to chew on the bone. No, I want to.
Yeah.
But it looks like we have a caller, unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I was just up in the area recently. I've listened to you guys for over a decade, I guess, but I'm up here for work, and I guess it's sort of off subject, but I didn't know, is there any place I should eat or see one in this area? It's just New Hampshire, Vermont area.
Well,
Really
there is a Thai restaurant, if you like Thai, in Manchester called
Right on.
Dai Kun Thai, like Daikun Thai. That place is amazing. If you like really
Sweet.
spicy food, you can get it really spicy there. But I can't really think of much else.
There's another one in Manchester. It's an all-you-can-eat sushi place.
Oh, that place is cool.
Kasaki Japanese Cuisine
That
on
place is
Elm
really cool.
Street in Manchester. I really like it because I think it's like less than $30, but it's for unlimited sushi. There are a few caveats, like if you leave anything on your plate, they charge you extra. Like you can't waste the food.
Yeah.
And there is an hour-and-a-half limit. But when I go to eat sushi, I like sashimi, which is like really, really expensive. So I totally get my money's worth. I live really far away from Manchester, but if I ever make my way out there, that's one of the places I
Me and
go.
Ian
Where
have
are you
been there
coming
once.
from?
It's so good.
Nice. Yeah, I wrote both those down. Sweet. I'll have to check them out. Yeah, I'm from the Midwest, so
Have you ever been to New England?
I have not. No, I got pulled out of a ditch this morning, and everybody told me I had summer tires on. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is just what my
so you're
boss sent me here with. Yeah.
You should go to Fun
And,
Spot. It's the largest
Spot. I feel
arcade
like
in
I
the
saw-
world.
Oh yeah, Fun
I saw
Spot's
a
another
billboard
good.
for that. That's what I'm saying. I saw something. Nice. Where's that at in New Hampshire?
I
In the
don't even
Lakes
know.
region. I forget what it's called. It's the Lakes region, so it's kind of northeast of Manchester.
I say go to like
Yeah, I must have been close to it earlier. I know it was kind of that direction, I guess. So cool.
go to the beach,
Right on.
check out the marshlands. You know, go to the
I've seen
White
like
Mountains.
large lakes. I'm like, I didn't know there's lakes up here.
Yeah, lots and lots of water.
No, it was just untouched for so long. It looked like it wasn't real. Just, I assume it was a frozen over lake or something up this way, but
I feel like the
Yeah,
lakes wouldn't
cool
be
area.
frozen right now. Like I wouldn't trust the lakes
It
right now.
might
It was
have been
50
Maine.
degrees today.
bouncing me around a lot this week. But yeah, it might have been Maine when I saw it, but I feel like it was
Oh.
Vermont or New Hampshire. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. So I hope you enjoy your
Cool.
time.
Yeah, thanks for the advice and everything, and keep up the good work.
Thanks so much, and thanks for being a long-time listener. We appreciate it. That's always like a fun kind of call.
Yeah.
Kind of like a social call.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I have some bad news to talk about instead from the world news, because that's what we do on Free Talk Live. We talk about bad stuff so you can listen to us and tell us your opinion on it. From the AP, from apnews.com, it says, as Bosnian Serbs mark controversial National Day, U.S. warns celebration amounts to a criminal offense. And this might be a little confusing if you don't know what's going on. I only barely know what's going on from Ian telling me a little bit, but apparently some group in, is it Bosnia-Herzegovina or is it Serbia? I don't know. Yeah, Bosnia-Herzegovina are wanting to break off, and amid that, there's a national day for the Bosnian Serbs that they're going to celebrate, and the United States is threatening them. And I just think this is newsworthy because it's like, what right would our government have to tell people who want to break away that they're being criminally, they're acting criminally by celebrating their national day? It's so messed up and weird.
Yeah, that is weird. What is the reasoning behind the celebration being a criminal offense? And what criminal offense from the U.S.?
Seriously.
They don't have to abide by U.S. laws. So
right. It's so weird. It says the United States warned on Tuesday that ongoing celebrations of a Bosnian Serb self-proclaimed national holiday, which included a parade of paramilitary and police troops, were in violation of Bosnia's constitution. What?
And why does the U.S. care about that?
And a 1995 peace agreement, maybe that has something to do with it, and as such amounted to a criminal offense. If you agreed to a peace agreement that includes, you can't have your own parade that is totally peaceful, like maybe that was a bad decision.
Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like, I mean, if they're celebrating a holiday, I'm sure they do this every year, right?
I don't know. I don't know if it's new because there's apparently
I see cops and parades.
Right.
Yeah.
There's some group in that area that are trying to break off, and Ian was telling me that, but I don't really know all the details. So maybe that's just like something they've brought back because they want to celebrate.
Maybe, yeah.
It just seems like the United States is really serious about being anti-secession. Like the United States is on Ukraine's side in the Ukraine-Russia war, and in that situation, the Ukrainian government was bombing people just because they wanted to be a part of Russia.
Yeah.
And the United States is backing that.
I think the U.S. is really serious about butting into everyone's business all the time where they don't belong.
Yeah. Right. It says, in a statement, the U.S. Embassy in Sarajevo, I guess that is maybe there, I have no idea, urged Bosnia's legal authorities to investigate any violations of law related to the marking of January 9th as the day of the Republika, I can't say that entity. It looks like Spriska, but there's like only one vowel. Spriska. So the day of the Republika Spriska entity, which is what the part of Bosnia run by ethnic Serbs is called. The issue is not the celebration of the holiday, but rather the decision to do it on January 9th, the statement said.
What? Okay, so that's like really, really stupid.
There has to be some kind of history here we're not understanding, and hopefully it gets into it. It says the January 9th holiday commemorates the day in 1992 when Bosnian Serbs declared the creation of their own state in Bosnia, igniting the country's devastating 4-year war that killed more than 100,000 people. And there's probably another side to that. Like, did they just go in and kill 100,000 people, or were 100,000 people killed because they were being threatened not to become their own country, and then somebody went after them, you know? Bosnia's constitutional court has ruled against celebrating that date in the past.
You can't celebrate anything on that date.
What if it's your birthday?
Right?
Maybe it's just if it's related to being a Bosnian Serb, which is just like, that's crazy.
I just still don't get why the U.S. cares.
Yeah.
That's what is really weird. It's just, I think they're really against secession at all. They want to... Wait, not in Thailand. That's what's weird. I mean, it's understandable. Wait, is it Thailand or Taiwan? Not in Taiwan. Taiwan doesn't want to be part of China, and the United States is on their side then, but not on the Bosnian Serb side in this situation. It's so weird. It's like, it shouldn't be our business. It shouldn't be the United States' business in either situation, but it's just weird that they're so serious about it and so in people's business. It says Bosnian Serbs defied both the court and international criticism, staging a parade of troops armed with machine guns, armored vehicles, and other equipment. Also participating was the Russian Night Wolves biker group, known for its support for Russian Vladimir Putin. Nationalist Bosnian Serb leader Milorad Dodik, a Kremlin ally, said the Serbs won't give up the day when Republika Srpska was born. The Russian ambassador in Bosnia was among the rare foreign officials who attended the gathering in the northwestern town of Banja Luka. We are looking at Serbia. We are looking at Russia, Dodik said in his speech. He added that the holiday cannot be banned because it would mean we have fallen. I guess the Bosnian Serbs. So this is really serious to them. During the war, Bosnian Serbs expelled and killed Bosniaks, who are mostly Muslims, and Croats from the territories they controlled. The conflict ended in 1995 in a U.S.-brokered peace agreement. The so-called Dayton Accords created Serb and Bosniak Croat entities in Bosnia held together by weak joint central institutions. Bosnian Serbs, however, have sought to gain as much independence as possible. Dodik has openly called for secession from Bosnia, defying U.S. and British sanctions imposed over his policies, which is really crazy because it looks like Dodik is, it says he's the Russian ambassador in Bosnia. Okay, never mind. I thought it said the, American ambassador. That doesn't make any sense, and that's why I was confused. It says... Bosnian Serbs, however, have sought to gain as much independence as possible. Dodik has openly called for secession from Bosnia, defying U.S. and British sanctions imposed over his policies. And why is the U.S. and England involved, or British, I know all of Great Britain, why are they involved in the policies of somebody in Bosnia? It's so weird.
I just find it absurd that they're going to tell people that they can't celebrate on a certain day because something bad happened that day. It's really weird.
Even if you could convince me, 100%, these people were in the wrong, they really did something bad, I would still be of the opinion that they should be allowed to celebrate what they want to celebrate.
If somebody wants to celebrate 9/11, that's their business.
Yeah, literally.
I'm just going to be like, that's a weird party to have.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, seriously.
Free staters should do that. No, I'm just kidding.
I think some of them might.
Some of them actually celebrate the day that John McCain died. And they have fireworks last year.
I feel like I heard about that. Oh my gosh.
It says, on Monday, 2 U.S. fighter jets flew over Bosnia in a demonstration of support for the Balkan country's territorial integrity. What? That costed money.
Yeah.
What the heck? In Brussels, European Commission spokesperson Peter Stano insisted on the need to respect the sovereignty, territorial integrity, constitutional order, including decisions by the Constitutional Court by all actors in Bosnia-Herzegovina. He warned of serious consequences for any action against those principles. And that's just evil. It's
the whole thing is weird too. I don't understand why. So 2 groups of people live in a space, right? And they want to not be in the same space together anymore. Why is one going to force another one to stay?
I have no
Why
idea.
Can't they just split?
That's the thing, right? It's if your wife wants a divorce and you're like, you're not allowed to, it's like, you want to be with somebody that doesn't want to be, you want to hold them here against their will? Like, that doesn't sound like it'll end well for you either.
Yeah. That's how it works, though.
603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. Forkfest.party.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. Former New Jersey Governor, Republican Chris Christie, is ending his bid for the White House. He made the decision to drop out just days before the first state vote in Iowa. FSN's U.S. correspondent Nick Harper reports.
Chris Christie's 2024 White House run was always a long shot, but suspending his campaign now has come as a surprise, with the expectation that he would at least try to get through the start of primary season, with the Iowa caucuses next week and the New Hampshire primaries the week after. Christie has tried to sell himself as an alternative to frontrunner Donald Trump, but he's been forced to tell supporters it's now clear there is no path for him to win the Republican Party nomination. Throughout, he's struggled to gain ground in the polls, trailing significantly behind Trump and the two candidates vying for second place, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Hunter Biden surprised members of Congress on Wednesday, appearing at a meeting calling for him to be held in contempt for not testifying at an impeachment inquiry. The president's son had agreed to appear publicly, but not behind closed doors. FSN's Caroline Malone reports.
Hunter Biden unexpectedly turned up to a House hearing on holding him in contempt with his two lawyers. He listened to proceedings in which Republicans and Democrats argued about whether he should be allowed to testify. He wasn't and left after about 20 minutes. The House Oversight and Judiciary Committees had wanted to hear from Hunter Biden in person at a private session to question him as part of their impeachment inquiry into his father, President Joe Biden. Caroline Malone, Washington.
A helicopter contracted by the United Nations has been captured by al-Shabaab in Somalia. 6 of the 9 people reportedly aboard were taken captive by the terrorist group. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York, where the UN is headquartered.
According to the New York Times, 2 people on board the helicopter managed to escape, while 1 person was killed. A spokesperson for the United Nations Secretary-General says a response effort is underway, but wouldn't be drawn on details for the safety of those that were aboard the helicopter. The helicopter, linked to the UN support office in Somalia, was reportedly captured after it made an emergency landing in territory controlled by al-Shabaab. The UN office provides support for an African Union-led peacekeeping mission on the ground.
The company OpenAI has launched a new marketplace where users can buy and sell custom artificial intelligence chatbots. The ChatGPT creator will make the new GPT store available to premium subscribers. And in U.S. markets, the Dow was up 0.5%, the S&P 500 rose 0.6%, and the Nasdaq was up 0.8%. From Bureaus Worldwide, this.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori, and Nikki.
And I'm going to go right into the phones because we have a caller on the line, Law Dog in Michigan. What's on your mind, Law Dog?
Whoa, Bonnie, how you doing? It's good hearing from you ladies there.
Good.
I'm just kind of chilling out here. Not really too much going on in Michigan except the Wolverines. They won their championship there, and the Lions. They're going to be in the playoffs there. But Dana Nessel is coming out to protect us from all of the scams and the tickets and everything, and so I guess that Miss Nessel is performing her due diligence. So what's going up there in your neck of the woods in New Hampshire?
Well, actually, this Friday, I'm going to go to a hearing to speak in favor of a bill that would give New Hampshire people the right to vote on an amendment to the Constitution that would say if the federal government hits $40 trillion in debt, we secede from the union.
Oh, nah. I'd make it 35 trillion. 40 trillion, it's going to be too late, so you better get on that one.
I don't know.
Quick.
They're going at it so quickly. I think it's already passed. I don't exactly know. Let's see. I know it's in the 30 trillion, so they go through money pretty quickly.
Since the start of football season, the national debt increased by $1 trillion.
Whoa. It says 34 trillion right now.
Oh, another thing, too. At the major college campuses here, Michigan and Michigan State, they have this amendment that went through that they are now serving alcohol at all of the athletic functions. So it's going to be really interesting when that happens.
So did you have anything else on your mind for us tonight, Law Dog? Sorry about that.
Yeah, just one thing. Run me through the screener, if you would, from now on. Don't put me on the air, directly like that as a surprise basis.
I can't we don't have a screener anymore, so
Okay.
it's the last segment, so I just have to let people on.
Yeah, well, it was about, I would say about 6 months ago, I had a really, really strange visitor ask me some really kind of personal questions there about my listening habits.
Whoa.
And it more or less, that's why I haven't called.
Oh, no.
So if you think that this country has free speech, I just want to let you know that, no, somebody doesn't like what you say, even though it's the truth. So, just just have me, I'll pick another name for this year and try to get, shake somebody who's on my tail, okay?
Okay, thank you, and good luck with that. That sounds kind of scary, but I hope it wasn't Free Talk Live related, but I think it's an important thing that we do here, keep people having the ability to exercise their freedom of speech on the radio. About 180 stations, I think it is. Well, that's the last number I heard. And it looks like we have another caller. David from San Francisco, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Oh, howdy. Yeah, I don't know if you're keeping up with the border issue, but one of the dumbass congressmen from down in Texas, what was his name here again? He admitted that the Republicans don't want to solve the border problem because they want to make Trump look bad, right? So what makes it worse, and I'm calling the Libertarian Show because you guys are interested in money and the value of money. If you're paying attention to the government shutdown, the Republicans are refusing to come up with a budget for America because they want something to happen at the border. Well, this dumbass congressman admitted that they don't want to solve the border problems, And that gets into whether or not they're actually working for the Saudi Arabians. Oh, here's the guy's name, U.S. Rep. Troy Nehls, N-E-H-L-S. And he basically admitted that the Republicans have no desire to deal with the border because they want to make Biden look bad. Well, I don't know if Nehls is a saboteur or a fool, but if the government shutdown is based upon trying to get a border policy that works, and the Republicans refused to sign on to a bill that a lot of Republicans were agreeing to, but they still want to make Trump or Biden look bad, then they're going to end up doing the government shutdown, which would then ruin America's credit rating and make the Saudi Arabians, I don't know if you're keeping up with the Saudis, but they want to stop using the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. And so the evil Saudi Arabian Mr. Bonesaw would then have an opportunity to use another currency, and that would mean that the value of everything in America, every house, every car, every piece of art, everything would be floating around in like currency speculators do. And so the value of everything in America would all of a sudden go on to another currency rather than the U.S. dollar. It would be floating, right? And so are the Republicans as stupid or as as saboteurs is an easy way of looking at it. Would they sell out the American value system, the American currency, just to make a point? Or are they actually selling out America for more venal reasons so that some corporate money would all of a sudden be the value? So I don't know if you're keeping up with this U.S. Rep. Troy Nehls, but that dumbass admitted it today, and it gets into whether or not it's treason or whether it's sabotage. Somebody challenged me on the word treason, that if we're not at war, then it's not treason. But selling out the value of everything in America, right? Everything in America would go into a floating currency as opposed to, and if you're familiar with the International Monetary Fund, the U.S. dollar is the world's currency. And every country, if they want to do, if you want to go from Paris to London, you still have to change your currency based on what the U.S. dollar is.
Yeah, but I just think it's like, if it's going to fail, it's going to fail. It's kind of the people who set this whole system up, it's kind of their fault for making us live in this debt-based currency system.
I mean, it's going to fail regardless. I don't think anything that this one state rep does or anything to do with the border or Saudi Arabia, like I don't think either way. I mean, it might expedite it, but I don't think it's going to fail regardless.
I don't think the government's in the business of solving problems anyway.
Right.
I think that makes them obsolete if we don't have problems.
Absolutely.
They don't want things solved. They want to continue to collect their paychecks that they cry are not enough. There was an article I saw today. Some senator, maybe, I think it was a senator.
In New Hampshire?
Maybe it was a House representative. It was somebody crying that they only made $175,000 a year.
Aww,
and they haven't had a raise in so long.
Aww.
Yeah.
They probably make a lot more, like, with their insider trading or whatever, though.
I think it was a House rep, and I think they get, like, some kind of rental stipends, too. Like, they get their housing paid.
Must not be in New Hampshire, because I'm pretty sure they get paid, like, 2 cents a year. I'm pretty sure, like, the House reps get paid. Yeah, it's, like, crazy how low they get paid.
I'll have to look and see what it was.
But that's pretty funny. Well, maybe if it was, like, a federal one, I think that's different. Then even in New Hampshire, I think that's different. But I don't really know. But yeah, that's just basically the story of governments being involved in other countries' business for some reason. Because it's like, I feel like if the Saudi Arabians, he called the man evil, I don't know who he is, but if the Saudi Arabians want to use some other currency, they should be allowed to do it without the threat of the United States government going and bombing and killing all of them, because
I think they should. I think we should too. I think everybody should. Or
Yeah.
I mean, like, use a different currency,
right,
versus the U.S. dollar,
Bitcoin
like a real currency, not a fiat currency,
Right.
because we're seeing, because the U.S. is using the Federal Reserve and the fiat currency of the U.S. dollar. This is why our economy is currently failing.
Yep. I mean, like, it's not like the economy is great right now. I have this article here that I was possibly going to get into.
It was Congress, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
think they
That
make
makes sense,
most
yeah.
money. I have this article here talking about the 2024's hottest real estate markets and like what's up and what's down. And what's weird is apparently the Rust Belt is doing really well. It says
Where is that?
The Rust Belt is just where there used to be a lot of industry, like Pennsylvania, Ohio,
Okay,
West Virginia,
yeah, like steel industry and
and
stuff
they,
like that. Yeah.
they call it the Rust Belt because it just got abandoned and
Oh, okay.
and there's like literally rusted factories.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's like kind of famous for like people who want to live there. So apparently it's becoming more interesting to people for some reason, which is
'Cause
kind of
it's
like
cheap.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of like, well, that's where that big train chemical explosion was too, but okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like a bunch of it didn't
Don't worry
land in
about
New
that, though.
A bunch of it landed in New Hampshire, though, specifically. That was like the most stressed out I'd been for a really long time. Like, I was like, gotta stop thinking about this. Which is kind of goes back to what we were talking about stopping thinking about things. Sometimes it's because you're like, well, I can't spend my time thinking about this anymore. It says the hottest housing markets of 2024, Rust Belt's new shine. This is from Axios.com, but it's Zillow's predictions. And Zillow is a real estate website. You can go look up what houses are for sale in my area. The Rust Belt has a new shine. Driving the news, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Cleveland are expected to be among 2024's hottest housing markets. Wow, that's so shocking. Like, I've only been to Cleveland like twice. Like, honestly, Ohio in general, just like, it just
would not want to live there.
That's all I have to say. Like, it's not like it was disgusting or terrible. It was just like really boring. It definitely gets cold. It definitely gets hot. You want to live in a place where it gets extremely hot and extremely cold? Live in Ohio. That's terrible. Like, I would, I mean, just pick one.
Yeah.
It says the South, Midwest, and Great Lakes regions are expected to thrive compared to the rest of the U.S. because of their relative affordability. Why it matters. It's fresh evidence of America's new influence frontiers. Thanks to our wired world and COVID-era trends, the country's centers of power and jobs have spread out from the coastal bubbles. State of play. Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, Providence, Rhode Island, Atlanta, Charlotte, North Carolina, Orlando, Florida, and Tampa, Florida also top this year's ranking of Zillow's hottest housing markets of 2024. Says Buffalo and the other hottest markets of the year are projected to have strong demand, steady home values, rising home ownership rates, and job growth, per the report. The only thing that kind of sucks about this is, like, isn't it really hard for people to buy houses in those areas if they're, they're the hottest market of the year? It says on the flip side, home values and in some cases home ownership rates are expected to drop in not hot markets. Housing markets are healthiest where affordable home prices are strong and employment are giving young hopefuls a real shot at buying and starting to build equity, Zillow data scientist Anusha Prakash says. The projected typical home value in Buffalo is $248,445 compared to the U.S. average of $237,400 something. And that's really surprising because I would think that, like, Buffalo, New York would be expensive. I don't know. I just think of all New York as just, like, expensive. And it's $100,000 less than the average.
Most of New York is just like the woods.
Yeah, like upstate. Like, once you get,
I didn't think it was like, oh, New York City. I just thought, I don't know,
More
all of New York was
expensive,
much more expensive than, like, living in Alabama or something.
Yeah, I was just
I'm
talking
sure housing
about...
prices in Alabama are below that.
I wish it would say.
Yeah. Matt and I were talking about this. Like he was just looking up like housing values at different parts of New York. And some of them, like the median cost to buy a house for some of these places in New York, I was like under $100,000.
Whoa.
Which compared to like New Hampshire, I mean, I don't know what the median cost for a house in New Hampshire is, but I'm guessing it's at least like $400,000.
It says Texas markets have long been hot are expected to cool in 2024. Oh my God. Like when I was in San Antonio last, so I left in January 2021 and went to visit my friend for his birthday in September 21. And I was like outside every single day, driving all over the city. I did Uber Eats for a job. I didn't like to be sitting around in my house. I could tell that the population had grown in just those 8 months. And that was obviously really pivotal months because people were like, wow, COVID's over. I don't want to deal with that ever again. And they moved somewhere where they feel like it was good. San Antonio was bad. It was like hell on earth to me. But people just think, oh, Texas, oh, it's free there. I used to think that. That's why I moved back to Texas. But it's not true. Well, at least like don't live in the city in Texas. If you can stand living in the middle of nowhere, pretty much anywhere, you'll be more free than living in a city. But anyways, it says San Antonio and Austin are two of the 3 major U.S. metros where inventory has improved since the pandemic. And that supply should keep prices cool in 2024, even if demand grows. Probably because they're just nonstop, almost like growing, building these like really ugly, really cheap, really quick suburbs.
Which doesn't make any sense. I don't know why there's so much housing development going on when there's houses already that people don't live in. There's so many of them.
It's a great question.
I don't know. Is that going on a lot here?
Everywhere. The whole country. There's so many houses that nobody lives in. But they just keep building more houses.
It seems like those ones get filled up. It's crazy. Like when I like land in San Antonio, it just looks like a bunch of like, you know, those mazes made out of bushes, except made out of houses. Like just those corn mazes, but made out of houses.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of weird geometrical shapes. And it's like, it looks like home.
Do they all look the same?
Yes, they all look the same. It's beige. It's grayish.
Yeah.
It says home prices are still wildly more expensive than pre-pandemic. They've risen 34% in San Antonio and 44% in Dallas. Bouchard notes, which I didn't catch who that was. Even a slight dip in home prices could bring relief to Lone Star buyers. I think everywhere is like more expensive than normal, right? It just seems like that from everywhere I've heard. This other article here says that San Diego has a huge housing shortage. But the other thing is like how much of this is just made up, you know? I have no idea.
So there was an article April 12th, 2023 that says 16 million homes in America are sitting vacant.
Whoa. That's so weird.
That's
I had never really
lot.
heard of that problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely probably not as much of a problem in our area because I think there probably is a lot of like lack of inventory in New Hampshire, especially. But I totally could see like some, I don't even know an example, but yeah, there's for sure a lot of like rundown houses that are just.
Is it like that? Is it rundown houses?
Even not rundown ones.
Yeah.
Like there's just a lot of places where nobody lives in them.
Yeah.
Does that article explain like why?
Oh, I didn't look that far into it.
Oh, it's okay.
I can though.
When I was a kid, there was this house on our street that me and all the other kids thought was haunted in Tennessee, and no one ever lived there. And we would like go sneak on the property, which is kind of bad. And we found this like pile, like apparently they like abandoned it, but they still owned it, so no one lived there. And it was like the prettiest house on our street too, other than being like not taken care of. They had like these trash bags just thrown under a bunch of wood that they abandoned there and like left. And I was always like, why would you just abandon a house and not sell it? Like that's why we thought it was haunted.
So this says 9% of homes in America are considered vacant. And 1/3 of those, so 32.8% of vacant homes are vacation homes or seasonal or recreational use.
Okay, that makes sense. Like
That's
in
a lot.
Ringe, New Hampshire, I was door knocking for Matt Santanastasso in 2020, and it was like house after house after house that was like clearly a vacation home, but nobody was home.
Especially once you get onto like some of the lakes and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like lake houses. So I didn't think about that. That's a good point. Like if it's
but to me, if somebody owns it, it's not necessarily vacant. But if you can't sell it, And I'm sure like some things get like if somebody passes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, then
I'm sure that could
bank limbo.
Yeah, like that could make it pretty messy.
Also, like families will keep their dead parents' house. Like I used to clean a house that no one lived at, but the family would meet up there for Christmas and stuff instead of like meeting up at one of their houses.
It's weird.
They had
That's
like
weird.
bug like they would spray for. They had people come and spray for bugs. They also had us come and clean. So I was like vacuuming up dead scorpions, and that's dramatic.
I also like can't imagine. To me, that's wasteful. I mean,
Right,
to
it
each
kinda
their
is.
own. It's their property. They can do whatever they want with it. But
It's like a really huge nice house.
I can't
It is
imagine
weird.
that. Like for me and my family, like there would be someone who could use that money from the sale of that house, and we can gather at somebody else's kitchen table.
Right. Or rent it out for income or do something with it.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, that's actually a better thing to do with it.
Could be
Probably.
something really sentimental. Ugh, maybe the siblings couldn't agree. I don't know. I don't know anything more
Yeah.
about that situation. But I hadn't.
But
really
I'm sure
thought about
that's
that.
not an isolated incident. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
that happens a lot.
Right.
I mean, also, so I was watching, the Osbournes. They have all of these spin-off shows now, but one of them is like a ghost hunting show.
Oh.
And Jack, the son, was brought like a medium to his childhood home in, I don't know, somewhere in the UK. I think they all live in Los Angeles now. I think they live in the United States now, but they still have their original house from when he was a kid back in the UK. And he would talk about how it was haunted and how he had all these experiences as a kid. But the point was they had someone just staying there, essentially house sitting and, making sure the pipes don't freeze, making sure everything, but they had the property and it's a giant like castle looking mansion that they lived in forever that the reality show, the original, like the Osbournes reality show was filmed in.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called.
They just, I think it is just called the Osbournes. But yeah, it's just sitting there.
That's so weird.
And but somebody was technically living there. Like his friend was like house sitting, and it's like, oh, cool, you just get to live in this like creepy
Castle.
mansion. Yeah,
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I heard recently that Ozzy Osbourne's son is really into the paranormal.
Yes, he is.
And really wanted to get Ozzy Osbourne on board, but Ozzy was like, this is all crap. So he went and rented this doll that is famous and very haunted called Robert the Doll. And you're not supposed to look at it really. You're not supposed to take pictures of it. There's a whole story behind it. You can Google Robert the Doll, why is he haunted? But you're not supposed to take pictures of it or disrespect it, blah, blah, blah. And Ozzy Osbourne threw it on the ground and was like, this is a bunch of crap. Like, this is all crap. And he now says that he was cursed because of that incident. And he
Really?
said that that's why he has Parkinson's.
Oh my gosh,
That's what Ozzy Osbourne thinks.
that's weird. I mean,
Lori doesn't look convinced.
no, she's not convinced.
I'm not convinced.
I refuse to be haunted by Robert the Doll because I accidentally looked at him in a Sam and Colby video, and that's supposed to be bad.
Even in a video?
Apparently, yeah. That's why they censor it, and then they tell you, like, okay, if
Did
you
your
don't
life
want to
fall
look.
apart right afterwards?
Ian went to jail. No, I'm just kidding. That was after. Okay, so
They're like, well, actually.
yeah, my life is fine. David in New Mexico, what's on your mind? Sorry for bringing you in right at the end.
Lots of stuff, duh. It's crazy. But since you ran me out of time, so I can't even say what I was going to say, so I'll have to say it a different time. But you reminded me of something. You're talking about Ozzy Osbourne. And you know how that dumb KTOX radio in Golden Showers, Arizona, they're replacing you with that Kate Daly chick that can't even talk. You guys are so much more interesting than she is, and in fact, you're even way more fun to listen to than that the guy that's on KTOX just before you, that afternoon jive guy.
Thank you so
Okay,
much,
whatever.
David. That's really nice. I really appreciate that. And he also said he was going to call into the program director and tell them that. It's Free Talk Live. You can listen to more episodes and find out more at freetalklive.com, and we'll be back tomorrow. Peace.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations